Welcome back to the best division in Saquon with your boys Saquon and the Beard. The best running back not on NYG. Y'all know what it is, man. Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Baker Buccaneers blew them New York Giants out 30-7. The Commanders got caught sleeping versus the Dallas Cowboys. I told the Beard that was not a game that you want to lose. That is the game that you had nothing to really win. And the Cowboys end up going here to Northwest Field and beating the Commanders 34-26. The Eagles dismantled Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday Night Football 37-20. Lot to talk about on today's show. I'm definitely looking forward to breaking down these three NFC East matchups. Without further ado, let me bring in the most angriest co-host in the country. The left side to the strong side duo. My brother from another mother. Shout out to my Dukes one time. The Beard is in the building. What's going on, my dog?
Look, she's here already.
Is she here?
She's already here.
Shout out Monique in the building one time, man.
Listen, I'm actually not that angry. I'm not that angry. I was.
Did you see my tweet today about Giants fans and Saquon Barkley, how the brain tries to protect the body from trauma? That kind of seems like what's happening right here live in the flesh on Authentic and the Beard.
This is the thing, is that we came into this season not expecting what we are right now, it hurts. It's painful. It's sickening. It's disappointing, but hey, we're still in the mix.
We're still in the mix.
That's all.
I love it. Optimistic tone. I love it. At the beginning of the year, we didn't think we would be here.
Yeah. Look, they are all here. Texas boy came back. You guys are. Listen, I'm happy for you all. I truly am. You guys are always welcome here. Come talk your talk. You get this opportunity. This is an opportunity for Dallas Cowboys fans. You deserve it. You guys won, and we're going to talk about it today. And listen, Saquon Barkley is putting up 70 fantasy points in some football leagues, and
it's a crazy thing. Man.
Baker Mayfield's doing the. Listen, there's a lot to talk about today. It's another wild week in the NFL, man. What more can you ask for? Listen, if you love football, this is what you're here for. You're here for weeks like this.
Yeah, me as a New York Giants fan, I can't quite say the same thing. We're sitting up here at 2-9 right now. But I really am not here for weeks like this, to be honest. I want to be out here with a playoff push, with at least some playoff hopes. My New York Giants are the worst team in football right now. So I understand. I do always say, bad Giants football is better than no New York Giants football, and I'm okay with that.
Your temporary GM's at Colorado this week, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, he was at their practice today, actually. And Giants actually made a little waiver wire signing. They brought in a former Broncos tight end, Greg Dulcich, claimed off of waivers, 41 receptions for 464 yards in his career, 2 touchdowns in 3 seasons. He had 5 receptions this year, 3 receptions the year before. You say you love it. One Twitter user that I know, he'll remain nameless, said it's a phenomenal signing. I don't see it. He's got nice hair. He does got nice hair.
Look, okay, I'm gonna tell you this one right now, and it's gonna blow your mind next time you look at the tweets. Somebody said it's James Franco playing Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh, I like that. That's a good mix right there.
Spot on.
Yeah, but James Franco and a couple classics, man.
Yeah, listen. I'm a big Greg Dulcich guy. I love me some Dolchmeister, you know what I'm saying? But it's not. I would not go as far as to say phenomenal. I simply said it was just a good grab. It was like.
No, let me quote you. You said I love it.
Well, yeah, but
I
I love
hit you with the play action. You were like, oh shit.
I just it's like one of those waiver wire moves that if somebody in our fantasy league made, I'd be like, oh, okay, that's a nice little sneaky move right there. It's not bad. It's a good pickup, man. Good grab.
Do you remember when the Giants picked up Ricky Seals-Jones off the waiver wire?
You were stoked.
Yeah, this feels a little bit like that.
He might not even play for you guys ever, but
yeah, probably not.
Listen, you got to do what you got to do when you're 2-9 now? 2-9. We're 2-9 now, right?
Yeah, we're 2-9. We have
2-9.
two draft picks on the roster that were both drafted in the 4th round at the tight end position. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I'll keep it real with you. I don't know why they're bringing in a tight end. I don't even know why.
Chris Peace was like, I don't know what to tell you when it comes to that. I guess they were kind of like, sometimes you just pick a guy up when you see there's a good opportunity on the waiver wire and you have an opportunity to grab somebody and put on your bench. You do it, right?
Let's move on. Okay, let's move on. Okay, because I'm not excited about anything New York Giants related outside of Saquon Barkley being our former running back.
You know, that's something to hold your hat on.
Yeah, a little something. Shout out to our GM man out here, doing the do when it comes to signing these players, these free agents.
Saquon Barkley picking up Jokic, right? I mean, let's.
Did you see when I listed all the free agent signings during the Joe Shane tenure on the Giant overreaction that Big Dash was talking about?
Yeah,
there's a lot of bad names on that list.
It was.
Not only was there a lot of bad names on that list, there was a lot of names on that list where I was like, fuck is that guy?
Part about it. I don't even know who this guy is.
I don't know who that is. All right, man. Well, let's get right into it, man. We got a lot to talk about on today's show. I think, low-key, this is about to be one of, the sneakiest gems of the year on Authentic in the Beard. I'm very confident in this show. I think it's going to be one of the better recaps of the year. Just a interesting loss for the Commanders. Giants just go out there and, I'd never thought it could be that bad, and here we are. And you got the Philadelphia Eagles just, climbing this division and continuously making that gap larger between them and the Washington Commanders. So let's start with them, man. I really want to talk about this Eagles team. That was a really exciting Sunday night matchup. Let's talk about the Eagles, who traveled to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. The Eagles are now 9-2 after beating the Rams, who are now 5-6, 37-20. Seems like it was just a couple of weeks ago I was asking the Beard, so who's going to win the division when the Washington Commanders were a game above, I want to say, maybe 2 games above
I was wrong.
The Philadelphia Eagles.
Once again.
Got a lot of time left, man. A lot of football left. Don't wave the white flag just yet. The Eagles are undefeated still now in L.A. versus the Rams. They're 4-0 now at that new stadium. The Eagles have won now 7 straight games in a row. First 5 wins were versus some teams that we were kind of skeptical about. A lot of people in the chat were bringing that to our attention. Teams being under 500. The last 2 wins are against teams that were at least at 500 or better, your Washington Commanders being one of them. And the Eagles have scored over 20 points in all 7 of these straight victories that they have had. The Rams are now 1-9 in the last 10 matchups versus the Philadelphia Eagles, which is really unacceptable for a team of their caliber. I know a lot of that isn't on Sean McVay, and that record does date back quite a while. On the preview show, I said to expect a slow start coming into Sunday night. The Eagles were averaging 1.4 points per first quarter. Rams were averaging 1.3 points per first quarter, and the Eagles scored their first quarter points just a week ago. The Rams hadn't scored in the first quarter in any of their last 3 games. The Rams come out on their first drive and fumble the ball. They had 3 punts in the first half. The Eagles kicked a field goal on their first drive. It was 7-3 in favor of the Rams at the end of the first quarter, but then the Philadelphia Eagles just straight up dominated the final 3 quarters of this game, scoring 34 straight points in this one. The Eagles were 9 of 15 on third down. That was really good to see them clean that up, and the Rams didn't convert a third down all day. You can't win games like that. Nope. The Rams were 3 for 3 on fourth down, though, as well. I said the Eagles have won every game with A.J. Brown. They were going to need A.J. Brown to come out here and show up, and A.J. Brown had 6 receptions on 7 targets for 109 yards. A.J. Brown's touchdown in the second quarter really sparked it all for the Philadelphia Eagles as well, pushed their lead to 13-7 at the half. Every wide receiver in the top 15 in yards this year has at least 60 targets and has played at least 11 games, except A.J. Brown and Nico Collins. Like, A.J. Brown and Nico are really doing some damage at the wide receiver position right now. And these
39 catches.
Excuse me?
A.J. Brown has 39 catches in his top 10 in receiving yards.
Top 15 because he's 11.
Oh, is he 11?
He's 11 right now.
Okay.
Yeah. But still, nonetheless, very amazing numbers from these 2 guys who have not played as many games as the other guys that are ahead of them right now. And Nico Collins and A.J. Brown, they're really outliers. Nico has 61 targets on the year. A.J. has 56. A.J. Brown is averaging 18.6 yards per reception, which is 5th in the NFL, only behind Alec Pierce, Jamison Williams, Christian Watson, and a surprise for me on this list, Keon Coleman is 4th in the NFL in yards per reception. The Eagles have won all 8 games that A.J. Brown has played in. I also said the best rushing team in the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles, should rely, I use that word, rely on Saquon Barkley. And Saquon Barkley went absolutely just ballistic in this game. The Eagles ran the ball 45 times on Sunday. The Eagles have rushed for at least 150 yards and 2 touchdowns in 6 straight games. They're now averaging damn near 200 yards on the ground per game at 193.4 rushing yards per game. It's first in the NFL by 13 yards. They also are averaging 243 rushing yards per game over the last 3 games, which is first in the NFL by 74 yards per game. Saquon is averaging 126.3 rushing yards per game, which is first in the NFL by 16.1 yards per game. Saquon right now has 1,392 rushing yards through 11 games, which is first in the NFL. 100 or more scrimmage yards in 9 of his 11 games. Okay? On Sunday, Saquon had more scrimmage yards than 8 NFL teams. Okay? Saquon has rushed for over 100 yards in 5 of his last 6 games. It's the second game where Saquon rushed for more yards than Jalen Hurts had passing yards, which is kind of crazy. Okay?
I love it.
Now, Saquon is on pace to break Chris Johnson's record for most yards from scrimmage. He's also on pace to break Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record. Saquon is on pace to be the 4th player with multiple seasons over 2,000 yards from scrimmage. His 6.2 yards per carry is the 3rd most by a running back with 200 or more attempts ever. Okay? His 1,649 yards from scrimmage leads the NFL by over 200 yards. Beard, I'm not finished.
I know. I pulled up a seat. I'm here for the long haul.
I'm not finished, okay? Versus the Rams on Sunday Night Football, he had 302 total yards, 255 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, 4 targets, 4 receptions for 47 receiving yards, 2 runs over 70 yards.
2 touchdown runs over 70.
You want to see him real quick? Maybe there's some people in the chat that haven't seen him yet.
Let's start. Watch him.
Come on, man. You know I'm looking at that all 22. Let's look at the first 70-yard run from Saquon Barkley real quick.
And yep.
Look at the vision right there.
And then there's no catching him after that.
No. This is the guy they said lost a step just a year ago when he was playing with the New York Giants.
Yeah, well, he might have found 2 if he lost 1.
Let's look at the end zone. I brought both angles today, okay? We're going to celebrate Saquon a little bit today, okay? This is the end zone angle. Look at the vision. Whoop. Oh, no, you not.
Off to the races. The block, the cut, the speed. Vision. He got a little bit of everything there on that run from Saquon.
Saquon is in Madden mode. Let's take a look at the second 70-yard run. There's 2 of them. I mean, it looks kind of like the first one. If the camera angle wasn't different, you really wouldn't be able to tell the difference between these 2 runs.
Look at the separation. They're like 20, 30 yards behind him.
Saquon looks like he back at Penn State right now.
My goodness. Oh, I love this angle here.
Yeah, come right into your living room.
Play design too, and then it's just
3rd and long too.
that is an awesome angle right there.
And look, right here when he flips the ball, he doesn't realize he broke the Philadelphia rushing record. He gave it to somebody. That ball is probably worth a lot of money right there. But I'm still not done, Beard. I still got listen,
more.
This is a nugget buffet.
There's more.
There's more. This is a nugget buffet, okay? This was Saquon's first game over 200 yards, all right? Saquon's 4th season going over 1,000 yards as a rusher. 10 rushing touchdowns in 2 of his last 3 seasons. Saquon has over 10 total touchdowns in all of his last 3 seasons. And you talked about the fantasy points. He had 46.2 fantasy points in most leagues, all right? Okay. Now, his 255 yards rushing on Sunday set the Eagles franchise record. He broke Shady McCoy's single-game record for rushing yards. I just wanted to bring this to all of the New York Giants nation and everybody's attention, okay? This is what they call a Joe Shane masterclass, right?
I don't know about that, but yeah, sure.
Okay, the last thing I got to go on with this one is, okay, I said all of that to say. That's a beardism right there, right? I said all of that to say it's pretty easy to predict the Eagles going up against average to below average teams. And I think that the Los Angeles Rams at this current time are an average ball club. I think it's pretty easy to spot that Saquon is the best free agent signing of the 2024 offseason. Him, along with Derrick Henry. I might throw a guy like Andrew Van Ginkel in there, too, who's been balling out as well.
Maybe a little bit, too.
Yeah, maybe a little bit as well. I also think Saquon is one of the best players, not just one of the best running backs. I think he's one of the best players in football. And when you pair him with a offensive line coach, a mastermind, that a guy who doesn't get enough credit, and big shout out to Dan Schneider for bringing up some numbers and showing some tape today on Twitter that reminded me that I need to say this guy's name more on this channel and on this show, being that this is the best division in football and we cover the NFC East. Offensive line coach Jeff Stoutland, bro, it's not the personnel in Philly. You've seen Saquon Barkley do this without Devonta Smith in this game. We've seen him do it without A.J. Brown for 3 games. We saw him do it when Jordan Mailata, the Philadelphia Eagles left tackle, was on IR. We saw him do it without Lane Johnson. We saw him do it without Mekhi Becton. And I'm not saying that Saquon would have done these things and been running this exact way if he was still in blue. But at the same time, you got to give props where props are due, and Jeff Stoutland deserves those. He's one of the best offensive line coaches in the entire NFL, if not the best offensive line coach in the NFL, which is why the Philadelphia Eagles seem to always have one of the better offensive lines when it comes to rankings. Look, I put out a tweet earlier today, like, especially being that the New York Giants have been eliminated now for, I mean, you could say up to 5 weeks, really, not mathematically, but we've been out the mix for a long time when it comes to competing in the NFC East. I'm extremely happy for Saquon Barkley, man. Like, this is seeing him put his best foot forward like this is an amazing thing. And I know a lot of Giants fans, you know, they're gonna, like I said, you know, earlier in the show here at the opening, that the mind is gonna protect the body, and people are still trying to convince themselves that maybe it wasn't, or it was the right move to allow Saquon Barkley to walk in free agency. And my thing is just this. You can say, you know, the Giants might not have won many more games with Saquon Barkley on the roster. You can say that, you know, he wasn't doing this when he was here. But at the end of the day, I think that building a good roster is about stacking great players. And Joe Schoen clearly allowed not one, but 2 great players to walk in free agency. But this game was a bit like who laughs last kind of vibes for me. Like, this is a running back that people were saying literally lost a step, and you see this guy break 2 70-yard runs in one game for a touchdown. I can't even tell you the last time I saw something like that, but this was just a all-around amazing performance by Saquon Barkley and the rest of that Philadelphia Eagles offense.
And I'll tell you what, too, I was actually, I know this might sound crazy, but I was actually kind of impressed with the Rams' defensive front. The 2 young guys that they have on the edges, I want to say they both play on the
interior too. Braden Fisk on the interior, Jared Verse on the outside.
They look really good at for most of this game. There was a couple of plays where Mailata got, I mean, absolutely blown up. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't like it was just like a horrible front that they were doing this against. And if you look at both of those plays too, the amount of movement from that offensive line is what I think a lot of people, if you look at the successful running games in the NFL, there's a lot of movement from the offensive linemen. The pulling, it was incredible on both of those plays. So, you know, like, kudos to the design of the plays too, obviously, and the execution. Like, you got to be able to execute. And when you do that and you have a guy like Saquon, he's going to put up 200+ yards on the ground. And they ran the ball. They ran, you know, I love it. 45
is it.
Times.
Yeah.
45 rushes for a grand total of 314 yards. The Rams, I thought Kyron Williams ran pretty well, considering, you know, he had the fumble on the first drive, but they only ran the ball 18 times. Mm-hmm. You know, like, it's that discrepancy right there is pretty intense. I thought both the young DBs did fairly well, considering the competition they were going up against in Puka and Cooper Kupp. And I thought they did a good job. You've been having
nightmares. You've been having them.
I've been having nightmares. I have. And once again, I've been talking about this throughout this winning streak for Philadelphia. Every game that they win, 0 turnovers, 1 turnover from the other team. They're winning the turnover battles in all of these games, you know, and it's just, yes, it was a turnover on the first possession of the game, but Philly put up that 3 points early. And And with two teams that are struggling to score early, like you said, that 3 points means a lot for a team that's averaging less than 2 points per the first quarter. So that's important stuff. The third down numbers were just obviously like 0 for 8. You can't go 0 for 8 and win a football game. The Rams didn't necessarily play bad. It's just that second half was the two 70-yard touchdown runs are just daggers. Like it was tough for the Rams to continue to stay in this game without having any of those sort of big plays like Philadelphia was. And they did their best to make it a game, obviously. It wasn't a visible blowout. They were in the game for most of the game, I would say. But it's just Philadelphia is on a roll. There's nothing else you could say about it. And when you talk about they doing this too, they had no Devonta Smith in this game. But Saquon and Barkley stepped out. And when they didn't have Smith and A.J. Brown, Barkley played. And when Brown is out, Smith had to step up. Smith stepped up. It's being able to have those three pieces, when they're all there together too, and the defense keeps getting better. I mean, Detroit and Philadelphia is looking like the NFC Championship game right now.
That would be a great NFC Championship game too.
It would be, and I think that, the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't know, the things that they were doing when they were losing, they're just not doing anymore. And that's, I got to give some credit to Nick Sirianni also, because, and when I say we, I don't necessarily mean authentic, but, we as in the people who questioned Sirianni and busted his balls. I remember when I ran that poll early in the season, I believe Sirianni was voted most likely to get fired before Mike McCarthy. And now I think it's looking like obviously the other way around. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can continue to play at this rate. I think the Rams are still, that whole division is just what do we got? We got 6-5 for the Cardinals and the Seahawks and 5-6 for the Rams and the 49ers. Mm-hmm. So the Rams aren't necessarily out of it. But once again, Saquon Barkley is playing – it's out of this world right now. And I think, there's been a lot of talk, rightfully so, about Saquon running himself into MVP contention. And I think you would be absolutely crazy to not think about Saquon Barkley as an MVP contender right now in the NFL.
Yeah, especially if he can finish at this rate and continue to put up these kind of numbers that he has been putting up. I mean, the Eagles are just, when they're at full health, they are a very powerful offense, a very potent offense, and that defense now has bent that corner as well. They've scored 26 or more points in their last 6 games. The one tough thing leaving this game was Brandon Graham out for the season with the torn tricep.
Yeah.
And he had 2 TFLs in this game, 3 quarterback hits, 1 pass deflection, 1 sack. It's impressive, man. 15 years with the same team. There's not many players that are like that in the league. I saw him on a radio interview. Yeah. Real heartfelt moment, broke down in tears, talked about how he just been needing to let this out. And, that's just something that even though I'm not a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles and I'm a New York Giants fan, I can still respect that these guys are going out there putting their bodies on the line. So that is some bad news for them. You talked about another game with no turnovers. Especially for Jalen Hurts, man, what is it, like 7 of the last 8, he has not turned the ball over. Very just chill, quiet game, 15 of 22 for 179 yards, 8.1 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, only sacked 1 time. They really couldn't get pressure on him. Quarterback rating of 108 and a QBR of 78 on the day, 12 rushes for 39 yards. So, this is the kind of game that you actually want to see from Jalen Hurts because it means that the running game is working, the defense is doing what they have to do, and you don't have to watch Jalen Hurts drop back 30, 35 times in a game and try to make those mistakes that were getting them into trouble early on in the year. But nonetheless, probably the most impressive performance of the NFC East over this past week. And the Eagles are definitely the most impressive team in this division right now over the last, 6 to 7 weeks here on this 7-game winning streak.
Yeah, without question. They're clicking right now at the right time. It's almost, they got 6 games left. So
yeah, 9-2. So 6 more.
When did they start the decline last year?
Last 6 games.
Yeah, I don't see that happening this season. So they're going to be under the microscope, though, for these last 6 games. That's for certain.
Yeah, and the schedule is pretty light. I looked at it earlier today. I think the Eagles are going to win 4 more games. So you're looking at probably 13-win team. They do got the Baltimore Ravens coming up, I believe, next week or the week after that.
That's going to be a great game. Great game.
Yeah.
Derrick
And then there's
Henry,
one more tough one,
Saquon
too.
Barkley, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers. Shout out Zay Flowers. He's in the top 10 in receiving yards
Yeah,
right
he's
now.
fifth, I think, right now. Yeah, he's balling
it's
out.
going to be fun. It's going to be a fun game.
Yeah, definitely is.
Big shout out to our guy, your guy, everybody's guy, Two-Toe.
Two-Toe.
With a $4.99 super chat, says love and respects to Authentic in the Beard, Gold Nuggets Jewel Master, and World Roadmap's Prime Minister, and diehard Giants fans across the pond. And please slap all stinky Boyds losers. Fist pump Italy. I'll throw it in there for you, Tudo.
My dog, man. Big shout out to Tudo one time. I see the homie Paulie is in the building as well, too, man, representing them Water Boys one time.
Big shout out, Paulie.
The streets got their body, Paulie. A lot of New York Giants fans are saying they need 2 more. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, it's gonna. The streets are filling up with bodies currently.
Yeah, it's definitely an ugly scene. And you know, if I was the son of Furious Styles, and they asked me, hey, you want to see a dead body? I would have been like, I got to go home, guys. This, street lights came on. It's getting kind of late here. But let's talk about your matchup. I thought that was a really interesting one. We did spend 3 hours on the New York Giants matchup against the Bucs on a Giant overreaction. Big shout out to all of y'all that tuned in and pulled up for that one. But let's talk about these Cowboys, man, who traveled to Northwest Field and really took care of those Washington Commanders. All right, man. Washington Commanders. What is that? 3? Is that 3 now in a row y'all have lost?
Yeah, 3 in a row.
It's not a good look. Cowboys sitting at 4-7. I guess they aren't as cooked as I said on the last episode.
They got a 0.4% chance of making.
Is that what it is? 0.4. God damn, that's not looking too good. Commanders fell to 7-5. They did not improve to 7-5.
You're not gonna let that one go.
I'm not gonna let that rock. Come on, man. WashingtonCommanders.com. You cannot make that mistake. Commanders were favored by 10.5 in this game, and the Beard said, man, that he was, a little bit worried about that spread. And the Cowboys end up winning this one 34-26. The Cowboys' 5-game losing streak is over. They still haven't won a game at home, though, so they got to fix that. I think that they will win their first game at home come Thursday.
They got the right Thanksgiving recipe for that
They
one.
definitely got the right matchup. The Cowboys have now won 6 of the last 7 matchups versus the Washington Commanders. That only win was with Sam Howell when he got his first start in the NFL. This game was 3-3 at the half, Beard. 10-9 to start the fourth quarter, and then a total of 41 points was scored in the fourth quarter.
Is that the most ever in a fourth quarter game?
Nah,
it can't be, right?
Can't be.
It's got to be up there, though.
I would think it's
the Buffalo game.
I would say like top 20. I wouldn't say top 5 or top 10 because there have been some teams that have scored like 35 and a quarter. You know what I'm saying? But the fourth quarter madness, man, just really begun in this game. A touchdown to Schoonmaker. The Beard was right on the enunciation of that.
About that guy.
Yeah, when I heard it on the broadcast, I was like, what the hell's going on here? All right, that pushed it to 20-9. Then Jaden Daniels had the touchdown to Zach Ertz. The Commanders get the 2-point conversion. That makes it 20-17. Kevontae Turpin with one of the most impressive kick returns for a touchdown I've ever seen in my entire life. After that, it was 27-17. A 51-yard field goal from Austin Seibert. I guess it's Seibert they've been saying. It started off a little bit to the left, too, hooked back in. That cut the lead to 27-20. A 3-and-out from Dallas running out the clock, and this is where things got really, really crazy towards the end of this game. Up 27-20, Dallas punted the ball with 35 seconds left in the game. The Commanders took over from their own 14-yard line, and I thought this game was all but over. And on first down, Jaden Daniels hit Terry McLaurin for an 86-yard touchdown that was one of the most impressive touchdowns of Terry McLaurin's career because, he's a guy that we even questioned if he still had that top-end speed that he once had, the way that he's been winning on these routes, using a lot of body leverage, not necessarily using his speed. But when he caught this ball, he was in traffic. I'd say about 5 defenders were right there that had a chance to at least try to make a play. And Terry McLaurin burnt all they asses on this play. The score was 26-27. It felt like it was about to go to overtime. Austin Seibert lines up for the extra point kick, and the snap is low, and he ends up shanking the kick. Washington ended up going for an onside kick. Wanye Thomas recovers it and scores a touchdown. He should have went down. It was really interesting because his touchdown ends up pushing it to an 8-point lead. Gave the Commanders one last chance in this game. Austin Eckler got the kick return, man, and he was really, really trying to score a touchdown. And, I really don't like when people try to argue against NFL football players putting their lives and their livelihood on the line And this play was really one of those plays. I don't care if guys are getting paid big money and whatnot. You saw Austin Eckler go out there and try to make a play for his team, went right down the middle of that kick return and ended up taking a big shot, man. He was on the ground, motionless for a second there, ends up having a concussion. They took him to the hospital for just precautionary reasons. He ended up being okay, but he is in the concussion protocol. The Beard is, suspecting that he might go on IR. But nonetheless, the Hail Mary after that ends up falling short. The Washington Commanders end up losing this game 34-26 to the Cowboys. This was a really interesting game, and there were a couple of key moments in this one, and special teams really played a big role in this one. Cowboys got into the red zone on their first drive. Cooper Rush looking a little bit better in this game, too. On 3rd and 6, he hit Jalen Tolbert on a quick slant, and Tolbert just drops the ball. They end up having to try to settle for the field goal. Field goal gets blocked, returned to the Cowboys' 37-yard line. Jaden Daniels converts on a 3rd and 12 on a beautiful speed option play, which I think you guys need to run a little bit more of that. Absolutely. Commanders end up getting a field goal. They go up 3-0. So I think the Cowboys were in control of this game for the most part, but it was these red zone issues, these green zone issues, the special teams issues. You had Brandon Aubrey miss a field goal on the second drive. Cowboys started the game with 2 trips inside the 30 and come away with 0 points. The quarterback matchup, Jaden Daniels, this was not his best game when you look at the box score, but I thought that both the interceptions were not his fault. He ended up the day 25 of 38 for 275, 2 touchdowns, the 2 picks, sacked 4 times, QBR 62.3. 7 rushes for 74 yards, averaging 10.6 yards per carry and a touchdown. A total of 349 yards of offense. Like, if you don't have Jaden Daniels at quarterback, the Washington Commanders are not in this game. There's no doubt about it. The first interception was on a screen pass to Austin Eckler, and I thought he did – or Brian Robinson. I thought he had a good throw. It was a little bit hot on him, but it's still a good throw to hit him in the hands, ends up popping up, gets intercepted. The other one's on the last Hail Mary of the day. So really, this box score is a little bit misleading. Thought Jaden Daniels had the better day, actually, of the quarterbacks, but Cooper Rush did do a good job of keeping the Cowboys in this game. 24 of 32, 247 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, most importantly. And y'all couldn't get no pressure on the quarterback. Only sacked 1 time on the day, QBR 48.1. And we talked about Terry McLaurin needing a big game, right? He was coming off 2 weeks ago where he only had 2 receptions for like 12 yards. We needed a big day from Terry McLaurin if Washington was going to be in this. And he did have the big play, but they needed some more help. And we've talked about this on the show. Like, you guys are kind of getting by without having the necessary personnel that you need in the wide receiver department to really make this offense go. It is surprising that the Washington Commanders were averaging over 30 points a game throughout the first half of the season and still in the high 20s right now. Noah Brown helped out a little bit with the 6 receptions for 71 yards. No other wide receiver on your team had more than 2 receptions. Terry McLaurin ends the day with 5 receptions for 102 yards, 1 touchdown, but he had the 86-yard touchdown on damn near the last play of the game. So you remove that. Outside of that, Terry McLaurin has 4 receptions for 16 yards. We need a little bit more consistency. I was talking to Mike Swan about it. He was saying maybe they should move Terry McLaurin a little bit more into the slot. So that prompted me to look at some of the slot numbers from Terry McLaurin. 17% of his routes this year have been ran in the slot, but only 2 routes in this game versus Dallas Cowboys were ran from the slot or from the slot. I take nothing away from Terry McLaurin's game, right? Because he made the 86-yard play. He did do that, and I don't like to take that away. But he does rely on the big plays. Right now, he's 4th in receiving with 823 yards on the season. He has 18 yards less than CeeDee Lamb, who is 3rd in yards right now, right? But Terry has 44 less targets than CeeDee Lamb.
He has the least amount of targets of all of those wide receivers in the top 10, I believe.
Yeah, all of them in the top 10. Top 15, you got Nico Collins and A.J. Brown there. But 44 less targets, but just 18 less yards. That goes to show you the kind of work that Terry McLaurin is doing down the field this year. He's the only wide receiver in the top 4 without at least 91 targets. Everybody else in the top 4 has at least 91 targets. Terry McLaurin, way less targets on the year. So got to give him his props on that. Now, the last thing I want to speak about before I kick this over to you is special teams, man. Like, I've never seen special teams play such a large role in a victory or a loss for a team for that matter. The Commanders had a blocked field goal and a blocked punt in this game. Austin Seibert, man, missed a 50-yarder in the first quarter, missed an extra point in the third quarter. I don't understand how you go 0 for 2 on extra points, man. That's unacceptable in the NFL. I understand they moved it back a little bit and whatnot, and missing the extra point to force overtime was the major one. Brandon Aubrey, he missed 2 field goals in this game. One of them was blocked. But Kevontae Turpin, with these new kickoff return rules and just the way the game is being played now, with speed from the defenders, and just these players are just so good now that you don't get to see the type of punt returners and kick returners that we got to see as kids anymore, right? They're the Devin Hesters, the D-Los, and all these dudes
Halls.
that were that's guys like Vi Sikahema. I don't know if you remember Vi Sikahema with the Philadelphia Eagles. There were just so many just like dynamic kick returners. I can't go without talking about guys like Brian Mitchell, Metcalf for the Cleveland Browns. And I don't know why his name is escaping me right now with the New York Giants. Dave Meggett. Yeah. There were just so many different guys that return punts, right? Kevontae Turpin, to me, is like the last of a dying breed. He is like the last guy in the league that has that dynamic type of playmaking ability from the punt returner, kick returner position that no one else in the league really has. To me, he's the best kick returner there is right now. 4 kick returns in this game for 179 yards and 1 touchdown. The 99-yard kickoff return where he fumbled it, picked it back up, and hit the B button like we've never seen. Somebody said, video
game, bro.
My dude, who's the old coach for the Colts that was like he came off the streets and became a coach for like a quick couple of games.
Oh my gosh. Jeff Saturday.
Jeff Saturday was saying he did the stanky leg before he took off and ran down the field. I mean, just one of the most impressive kick returns I've ever seen. And I think we got to give Kevontae Turpin his props for just being a pure special teams type of guy. I think you got to see this guy in the Pro Bowl the way that he's been playing this year. They try to get him in the mix on the offense and try to scheme ways to get him open, but Kevontae Turpin is just not a wide receiver, but special teams absolutely played a huge role in this game. Let me know what your thoughts were on this one, man. I know you're not feeling the greatest after this game. You're probably feeling some type of way, but the Cowboys come away with the victory in a game where we all really thought the Commanders were just going to go out here and just win this game.
We did, but we also, for our own credit, we also, we put a little sidebar on there that this is a game where Washington wasn't guaranteed a win, but
Beard, I really felt they were guaranteed. I thought that it was going to start off with the Cowboys defense trying to kind of hold them in the game like they have done the last couple of weeks, and then they would fall apart when that offense couldn't get things going. But I thought that this was an automatic dub.
Listen, Washington beat themselves in this game 1,000%. Okay, and the one part outside of them beating themselves was they lost the trenches, bro. They lost the trenches on both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. It was clear as day. We could not get any pressure on the defensive side. Frankie Louvu, that guy is just an absolute dog, okay?
Yeah, he's a beast.
Outside of Louvu, though, there was really no pressure from the defense. Bobby Wagner had some good plays, too. And on the offensive side of the ball, the interior offensive line was getting absolutely killed in this game. The pressure wasn't necessarily coming from the outside. Brandon Coleman had one of his best games of the season after having 2 horrible games at left tackle. But the inside, man, they were getting pressure all game long. We could not run the ball. Brian Robinson going down on the first play of the game absolutely killed the entire flow of the game moving forward. He came back and tried to play, and it was obvious that he was not going to be able to continue. I think before I get into digging into this game detail-wise, I think that Washington is missing. You mentioned some of the stuff that on that the keeper. More of that is definitely needed, and I think the pace of play has slowed down drastically for the Commanders. Mm-hmm. I feel like maybe I'm mistaken, but I feel like I haven't been seeing a lot of the no huddle stuff like we saw early in the season. Like, I feel like that pace of play, when you're getting so much pressure, and this is one thing I will say about Cliff Kingsbury, because I'm not going to sit here and dog Cliff Kingsbury and the scheme and all that, but I do think that he failed to adjust in this game. They should have seen all that interior pressure, and Jaden's he's running for his life at times. The quick game stuff, there should have been more of the quick game stuff early on in this game. I thought they failed to do that, failed to adjust to the fact that they were getting all this pressure on us, and that was huge. But as far as everything that we did that beat us, the turnovers were so critical. The John Bates fumble.
Yeah, that was huge.
That was an absolute, because like that one, they turned that fumble into a touchdown. right? And we were driving, and Jaden Daniels, the offense was looking good at that time. That just hurt us, right? And that was on a first down, which I'm going to talk about first downs here too. The interception on the Brian Robinson drop, that was on the Dallas 28-yard line. You know, like we talked about this before. The worst place you can have turnovers are in the red zone and in your own red zone, right? They're detrimental. They're so hard to overcome. And so, like, those two turnovers were horrible. The drops again.
Mm-hmm.
There was Noah Brown with the drops. You know, Austin Eckler. Now, this is a tough drop to put on him, but you have to, right? Jaden Daniels is getting sacked. He is going down. Austin Eckler is right in front of him, and there is nothing but green field behind Austin Eckler. And Jaden kind of is falling down, and he just pushes it right to Austin Eckler, right in his hands, and he drops it. An absolute heartbreaker because there was nothing but green field in front of him. So the drops, the penalties again.
Mm-hmm.
8 penalties in this game for 78 yards. 4 defensive penalties resulting in first downs for Dallas. We had the third down stop 12 men on the field. You can't.
Well, that's probably why you had to stop, right?
Well, nah, the 12th guy was, he was running off of the field. You know what I'm saying? He just couldn't get off in time. They actually had 13 on the field, but one dove off on the sidelines. The last guy couldn't get off in time. So, but 4 penalties resulting in first downs for the Dallas Cowboys in a game in which the Dallas Cowboys were not good on third down. And, you know, like, that was one of the good things that Washington did. They were good on third down. You know, it just, you can't have 8 penalties. 3.3 yards a rush. It's not how Washington is winning these games. Obviously, B-Rob going down was hurt that. Jaden Daniels is your leading rusher, you know. You talked about the special teams. And in the beginning of the game, I tweeted, special teams are saving our ass right now because we had the blocked field goal, the blocked punt. One of the things I talk about, too, and before we went live, I was talking about how, you know, this team and the missed opportunities, okay? I said this to Authentic. I said this game, the beginning of the game, and I tweeted this out, too. It's got Philadelphia Eagles game written all over it. The missed opportunities. The Washington Commanders converted on 1 of 8 opportunities in this game. And when I say, you say, what are opportunities? An opportunity is, this might be a made-up beard thing, right? But we're going to run with it,
Sounds like it's about
okay?
to be.
1 of 8 on opportunities. And an opportunity being when your defense didn't allow any points, so they either forced a punt, got a turnover, or there was a missed field goal. That happened on 8 occasions in this game. And on those 8 occasions, Washington only converted 1 time. And that was in the first possession of the game that Washington had after the blocked field goal. Is it the blocked field goal or the missed field goal? And they only converted it to 3 points. So 8 opportunities where your defense stopped the opposing team with either a turnover on downs, or forced punt. And you only converted 1 time on those 8 opportunities for 3 points. So, like, when you're a team like Washington that's good, but far from great, it's so important to take advantage of these opportunities. You can't have a blocked field goal, a blocked punt, a turnover, a fumble. You can't do any of those things and not score points on and expect to win games when you're not a great team. Those are what you have to thrive on. And Washington's slow starts, once again, have been absolutely brutal. And our rush defense, Dallas hasn't been able to run the ball for diddly squat. They ran for 91 yards, which some people may think, okay, that's not a bad thing. Most cases, when we're going up against good teams, I say, what, in the roadmap, hold the team under 100 yards. Dallas was averaging damn near under 70 yards a game. I think it was 73 yards going into this game. They ran for 91 yards, and Rico Dotto was killing us on first down.
He was.
And I'm going to get to that number here in a second. The pass defense, too. Cooper Rush didn't have a crazy game, but they were averaging 7.3 yards per pass. I felt like there was a lot of soft coverage early on in the game. Like just allowing kind of those sort of like 13-yard passes to like they were scared to get beat deep or something, which isn't necessarily Dallas's forte. So that was a little weird for me too. The sacks, we could not get to the quarterback. We had one sack all game, and I think that sack came on like a kneel down or something at the end of the game. Dallas had the 4 sacks. The interior pressure, Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons was coming in from the 3 technique. I mean, it was just it was all over the map on the inside. I think
Micah was a problem. He was a problem in this game.
I think
not a lot of pressures though.
Yeah, I think Allegretti had like a 3-point or 7-point grade PFF.
Oh, on PFF?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And then this is where it comes down to the difference was, and it's crazy because Authentic brought this up. I want to say it was within the last 2 weeks because, I always like to talk about third downs. And Authentic and I got into a conversation about first downs and second downs, both defensively and offensively. And it was so evident in this game. It was insane. Dallas's average yards per play on first down, what do you think it was?
I'll go with 5.5.
7.46 yards per play on first downs in this game. Huge. Absolutely huge. You can do so much offensively when you're doing that. Washington, on the other hand, and I'm going to tell you this is minus the Terry McLaurin play because that was on first down and it was an 86-yard play. It would have completely skewed the numbers here, right?
Yeah.
Minus that play. And if it would have been at any other point in the game, I probably would have included it, maybe still. But to reiterate the point, what do you think Washington's average yards per play was on first down in this game?
I'm going to go like 2.5.
3.6 yards per play on first down. Like, it was so difficult for them to get the ball moving because the first and second downs were just not clicking at all.
Which you could live with that if Dallas wasn't so great offensively on first down.
And you could rebound on second down if you were averaging 3.6, right? Washington's average third down to go on the day, 5.9 yards. So think about it like this. If you're averaging 3.6 yards per play on first down, now you're basically getting 2.3 on second down.
Yeah.
Not even.
Not even.
You're getting
not even.
You're getting because you're
how many on first down?
Oh my God, 3.6 on first down.
And then the average distance to go on third down was what?
5.9.
Yeah, so that's the difference in your second down right there. Yeah, your second down performance was terrible.
Terrible.
Yeah,
so
under 3 yards.
We had 3 third and 9s. We had 7 third and 7 or mores in this game.
And then how many third downs was it total?
I don't.
Do you remember y'all third down numbers?
I have the third down number is.
I could probably get
we were
quick.
4 of 12 on third down.
4 of 12. So you had 12 total third downs.
Yeah.
And then what was that last stat you read off? Just trying to make it make sense with that.
So we had 7 of those 12 downs.
Yeah.
7 of those 12 third downs were at least 7 yards or more.
Yeah. That's a lot, man.
So it's just all of those things. You put all of those things in that I just put in. It's just you're beating yourself over and over and over again. The drops, the penalties.
Yeah.
Not getting anything on first and second down. Third downs an hour long. The turnovers with John Bates and the drop pass which is a turnover and a drop pass from Brian Robinson. The pass defense giving up 7.3 yards per play. Not getting any pressure, but allowing 4 sacks. Giving up 91 yards to a team that's averaging 73 yards. Literally not being able to run the ball effectively throughout most of the game outside of the quarterback.
That was the biggest issue for me. You're putting too much weight on Jaden Daniels' shoulders and forcing him to turn back into a quarterback who's going to do a lot with his legs. I mean, you got 44 yards out of your 2, we'll say, starting running backs when Brian Robinson goes down. Austin Eckler, I think this is why he was brought in. I thought that Austin Eckler was a little bit off his game throughout the whole entire game, to be honest. Didn't look like himself. There was a play where he was getting tackled and he was kind of getting lifted up a little bit. One guy had one leg, and I'm like, dude just looks like he's just kind of like succumbing to the tackle, like he's not trying to break the tackle. And I think he was averaging 2.4 yards per carry for Austin Eckler. Like, that's just not going to get it done. You're either going to need Eckler or Jeremy McNichols, one of them, to step up and be that guy that's going to be able to support a rookie quarterback like Jaden Daniels, and they didn't have that in this game. And then offensively for the Dallas Cowboys running the ball, what I thought was a little bit interesting too is Rico Dowdle, right? Like, it's not an amazing game, okay? He did have one fumble, 19 for 86 yards, 4.5 yards per carry. The most interesting part about it to me was that no long runs. Every run was 9 yards or under. He had no run longer than 9 yards. So it goes to show you that they were grinding that running game throughout the whole entire game and relying on it. And in return, I think it opened up some things for Cooper Rush. They even were utilizing CeeDee Lamb in the backfield a little bit, and he didn't have a huge day.
The play action was working. They were using that running on first and second down for so much. They were able to use the play action and bootleg. Cooper Rush was bootlegging and throwing for 10, 13-yard plays immediately after that. It was wide open because they were selling out to the run at that point. And it's crazy because I want to say it was 70% of Rico Dowdle's runs were on first down, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, it was a crazy number. Like, they weren't passing the ball on first down much at all. I think they only had maybe 3 or 5 passing plays on first downs in this game, maybe. So it was. And it just goes to show you that those yards that he was getting, that's at 7.46 yards per play on first down. A lot of those were Rico Dowdles.
Yeah, setting up easy second down situations where you can run more play action, or you could run it again and do things like that. Now, let me ask you this, because you've been very critical of Mike McCarthy, and, Jerry Jones did come out today, and he had some statements to say about Mike McCarthy. He said, I don't think that's crazy at all. This is a Super Bowl winning coach. Mike McCarthy has been there and done that. He has great ideas. We got a lot of football left in regards to maybe giving Mike McCarthy an extension. I don't really necessarily want to know about, what you think about the extension. You can piggyback and talk about that if you want to, but what did you think about Mike McCarthy's approach to this game plan going up against the Washington Commanders, where he relied on the run to open up things for Cooper Rush?
I thought it was something that I beg coaches to do, right? Like, he's going into this game knowing that his absolute weakness is being able to run the ball. Mm-hmm. But he's going up against one of the worst rush defenses in the league.
Yeah.
So he did not shy away from the matchup. He dove right into the matchup. And you see a lot of coaches who are like, sometimes it's the opposite, where like they're going up against the best run team, right? But they decide they're not going to run the ball because they're going up against the best run team.
Try to get cute.
And like, so he knows he hasn't been able to run the ball all year long, but it did not stop him from going into this game and attempting to run the rock. And I thought that was good coaching. I would go out on it wasn't blatant, but I wouldn't be upset if somebody said the Cowboys outcoached the Commanders in this game. It wouldn't be egregious to say that. I thought Mike McCarthy and that entire coaching staff had a great game plan, especially defensively. I thought they attacked the interior line defensively. I thought that was a great plan. I thought Bland did a fantastic job on Terry McLaurin for most of the game. And so, I think Dallas, they came in with a great game plan, and more importantly, they executed it. I think that's the thing that bothers me the most is like, it's so easy sometimes. Like, there's times where people don't know when and when not to blame coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sometimes it's like, if something's not going right? Oh, the Cliff Kingsbury and that offense, then now the thing's gonna keep coming back into play, right?
Hey, listen, when we talked about that in 2021 about Cliff Kingsbury and his teams and the records falling apart towards the end of the year, I don't remember anybody else talking about that. I remember reading that in an article. So, I'm not saying that thought came from me or nothing like that, but there were not a lot of people talking about Cliff Kingsbury falling off. And now that's all I'm seeing on Twitter.
You see, right?
And people are not necessarily saying the record. They're saying Cliff Kingsbury's offenses fall apart during the winter seasons, right? And I want data that backs that up. Yeah, I want to see if there's any data.
It's not. So and that's the thing that's crazy, is that's the narrative going on along. I have it. I was listening to it. I should have wrote it all down. Yep. But the data actually, his offense doesn't go. It's not as cohesive with the records with the offense, right? Yeah. And like, I seen a lot of shout out to Rep the District, because another thing I saw going on too was he's not moving Terry around, right? He always lines Terry up on the left-hand side. And if you look at the statistics with DeAndre Hopkins, he was on the same sort of situation with Terry, and he had like a 1,500 yards season with like 8-10 touchdowns or something like that, like in the same sort of situation. So I'm pretty sure the data shows that it's not necessarily the offense as much as it was the team losing those games, right? And then it's hard because of the correlation with head coach versus OC is completely different. And now they're like throwing in USC into the mix too.
Right,
when he wasn't even a coach and he was just like a special assistant, you know what I'm saying? So there's got to be some truth to it.
Yeah, and that's what I want to. You know, I'm a numbers guy, and I want to dig into his offensive performances, which I'm sure I could get the splits on it.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know, from the winter months in the past decade, because I got the numbers here, the numbers that everybody's talking about. These notes came from a 2021 podcast that me and the Beard had done with Scotty Booms, still here, where Cliff Kingsbury's end to the season collapses as a head coach from 2013. Lost 5 of his last 6, then the next year 4 of his last 6, then 4 of his last 6, then 6 of his last 8 in back-to-back seasons, then 5 of his last 5. Then he became the head coach for the Cardinals. He lost 7 of his last 9, 5 of his last 7, and 5 of his last 6. And here we are with the Washington Commanders on a 3-game losing streak now as we get towards the end of the season. But I do want to take a look at that and see if there's any data that supports the offense is falling apart, because more importantly, Cliff Kingsbury is the offensive coordinator now. He's not the head coach for the Washington Commanders.
And I think the thing is that the players are they're really not executing. There's so many instances, especially over the last, 3-game losing streak. We'll say the last 3 games, right? Where they're just not executing.
Yeah.
The plays are there. There's a drop, there's a penalty. And then you got to remember that when these penalties happen, and Jaden Daniels is now forced to overcome a 1st and 20, right? Like, it changes the entire – when you're starting 1st and 20, the playbook changes now, right?
Yeah.
And I understand that there's some criticism that may be warranted, right? Like, there might be some predictability to the offense now, which I can understand. But it's not like he's working. What is he working with? Like, there's certain things that you just can't do, right? He's gotten so creative with that run game. But when you don't have Brian Robinson and you just have Austin Eckler, the things that Austin Eckler does best, he can't necessarily do now because he's taking over the role as Brian Robinson, which is another thing that I think that if it were up to me and Brian Robinson goes down, I'm using McNichols as my RB1, and I'm using Austin Eckler as Austin Eckler is meant to be used, as opposed to using Austin Eckler in a role that's fit for Brian Robinson. That would be one of the critiques for me, but I just think that it's tough because there's so much inconsistency in execution, especially over the last 3 weeks, where it's like, you got to drive going. You got to play that Jaden Daniels throws to John Bates, and you're cooking at that point. And then you go and fumble. Like, it's tough.
Drive killers.
It has been so many drive killers in the last 3 games between drop passes, penalties, miscues. And then I didn't even talk about the miscue on defense on the Schoonmaker touchdown. Like, that was
wide
huge
open
at
down
that
the
point
middle of
in
the
that
field.
game, right?
Yeah.
There's obviously a miscommunication between the 2 safeties, or not thinking Jeremy Chin thinking he had help when he didn't. Like, those sort of things. It's just like I've been beating this drum for the last 4 to 5 weeks. I think, let's say since the Ravens game, I've been beating this drum that the Commanders are a good team, but they are nowhere near the level of play where they can do these sort of things and expect to win games. They have to play lights out football from the opening kickoff to the last whistle of the game, and it has to be like that all the time.
And that's been a thing that's normally up against good teams. You needed to be perfect, which made this matchup interesting because the Cowboys are not one of those good teams. And even still, it came down to the wire. I still thought the Cowboys did kind of dominate this game a little bit. It's almost like they were dragging the Commanders along on the leash in this game. Although it was close at times, I did see Gregory talking about the secondary of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I did want to bring up some statistics from them as well. 21 total pressures from the Dallas Cowboys, 4 sacks, 7 quarterback hits, 11 quarterback hurries. Micah Parsons, you brought him up. He was chasing Jaden Daniels all day. They were kind of laughing about it sometimes on the sidelines. 2 sacks, 3 pressures, 1 quarterback hit, a true pass set win rate of 14.3%. His win rate outside of true pass sets was only 7%, so not that great. You had 10 tackles from Eric Kendricks, who I've been talking about from the Minnesota Vikings at the linebacker position damn near all year. It's important that they get him back healthy, and when he's healthy, they're a better defense. Now, you talked about DaRon Bland, who I did look at y'all all 22 a little bit, but I wasn't focused on the secondary from a Dallas Cowboys standpoint, so I don't necessarily know who was on Terry McLaurin for most of this game. And DaRon Bland does normally play some slot corner where Terry only took 2 snaps out of the slot in this game. But cornerbacks Josh Butler and cornerback Jordan Lewis. Josh Butler had 10 tackles. He led the Cowboys in tackles in this game. Combined, they had 12 tackles. Combined, they had 18 tackles between the 2 cornerbacks and 4 PBUs combined. Both Butler and Lewis were not as great in coverage. When you look at their PFF grades in coverage and you look at the tape, they were not that great. They allowed Jaden Daniels to go 12 of 16 for 177 yards and 1 touchdown. But we're talking about 2 dudes that are supposed to be depth pieces.
Yeah.
And having these guys come off the bench the way that they did, being role players, and come out here and really help this Dallas Cowboys defense at least, contain the amount of points that the Commanders could score in this game. I thought it was a really impressive performance from them nonetheless, man. And getting DaRon Bland back, that's definitely going to help out this Dallas Cowboys defense. It might be a little too late possibly for the Dallas Cowboys, but this was a good win nonetheless going up against the Washington Commanders here.
Yeah, and you said too, when you talk about like the whole leash thing, right? That was what was missing. It's not necessarily the exact thing, but I think about it like that because you said the leash, right? And it's like the dogs, right? Like,
yeah,
when Washington is at their best this year, they've been playing like dogs, right?
For sure,
offensively and defensively. And the first thing I said when we started this recap was Dallas won the trenches. When you win the trenches on both sides of the ball, it's going to look like you're dominating the game throughout most of the game, because that's where you really notice domination is in the trenches.
Yep.
That's a fact of football. And we got pushed around on both sides of the ball in the trenches, and you can't win that way. You at least win one side of the trenches. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to lose both of them, you're in for a long game. And yeah, it was brutal, man. I really thought, I was like, I lost it, man. I lost it.
I know you've been trying to keep your cool, but I can imagine. Like, I compared this to the game when we lived on Hawaii.
Oh my god!
And I jumped up.
Was that Carolina Panthers Giants game?
I think it was the Panthers game-winning field goal where Graham Gano kicked that game winner. I think it was that game where, like, your emotions within the last few seconds of a game are just, it doesn't get any worse dynamically. The dynamic range of the lowest lows, the highest highs, back down to the lowest low that happened for the Commanders and their fans in this game. I don't wish that upon no fan ever, because it's the worst feeling. You wake up the next day, you got shit to do on a Monday, and you're just, that thought of that loss lingers throughout the whole entire week until you get to come back on a Sunday and play another football game and get that stench up off of you. These are the worst kind of losses. And being that it happened against one of Washington's, if not Washington's primary rival, it makes it even that much worse. In an alley-oop game that most Commanders fans thought that you were going to go in here, it might have been a tough game, but most people thought that the Commanders would leave with the victory.
At home, too.
At home, where you guys, man, I've been talking about it. I don't know what it is. Offensively, you're just not the same team at home. They don't start the game strong at home either. And it's just been tough for Jaden Daniels. But at least he had the 2 touchdowns here in this game. That makes 4 touchdowns for him at home this season. But I think he was the least of your problems. Yeah, and a rushing touchdown in this one. Yep.
Yeah, so it's – and the roadmap. We're going to finish this off with a little roadmap and let you guys know where we –
I know you got one of them, that 100%. I know you got that one.
Yeah, there was a few that hit, man. It's just – will you beat yourself up? So RTDB – and this one kind of surprised me because I said I needed a $180, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've in no way thought that we got anywhere close to that. But we didn't hit it, obviously, but we ran for 145 yards on the ground. I was shocked. 70 came from Jaden Daniels.
68 rushing yards from your running backs.
Yeah, not gonna make it. Score 30 points. We should have scored 30 points. 26. I said force 2 turnovers. We only forced 1. Hold CD Lamb under 100 yards. We did that. He only had 67
10 receptions,
yards.
too. It's good. It's good.
Win third down.
Did you say receiving yards? How many rushing yards does CD Lamb have? No, I'm just playing.
I'm
just playing. Yeah, I'm just playing.
Get me there. Win third down. We won it defensively. That was one of the best things we did is third down defense. Dallas Cowboys were only 2 of 11. But we were horrible on third down offense, 4 of 12. So that's a bumbleclot.
You say it's a bumbleclot, it's a bumbleclot.
Yeah. Win time of possession. We lost the time of possession by like 11 minutes in this game. That's that grinding Rico Dottle grinding run game there. You know, that's what will kill you on the time of possession.
Facts.
100% in the red zone.
Spike don't care.
2 for 2 in the red zone. This was a big one, and it sounded a little interesting when I dropped it on the roadmap, but it ended up playing a huge role in this game. I said you're going to need less than 4 3-and-outs. And we ended up having 4 3-and-outs in this game. So, yeah, not a pretty game for the Washington Commanders. A lot of self-inflicted pain in this game. And I was telling Authentic, I said, man, before we started this show, I said, people started doing mock drafts after this one.
That's so crazy.
I see people, it's just, that's why you got to remind yourself as a Washington Commander fan. You came into this season not expecting. I did not expect to be as good as we were out the gate, right? Yeah. And we're here. Jaden Daniels is an obvious franchise quarterback. You know, I like what the coaching staff is doing. I like some of the pieces that we picked up. And Frankie Louvu, I think that Jeremy Chin, I think is going to be a guy that you have to consider re-signing next year. You know.
Yep. Dante Fowler, Bobby Wagner, y'all, the offseason moves have been great.
There's an obvious amount of holes in this team in the secondary and, at the wide receiving core, which we knew going into this season, more so as the wide receivers than the secondary. Yeah. And, we're here. We're in the hunt for a playoff spot. I think we got a little excited. I got excited. I should have stuck to my guns and said, Philadelphia Eagles are going to win the division, right? Yeah. I got a little excited at that point. But I'm not, losing my mind right now doing mock drafts. We got a whole offseason. I love our front office. I think they've done nothing but proven that they are making the right moves. And so moving forward, if we make the playoffs, we make the playoffs. It'd be a good experience for Jaden Daniels. I think that would be the big thing for me. To have that playoff experience under your belt as a rookie quarterback is huge moving forward. But if we don't make the playoffs, it's not the end of the world. You know what I'm saying?
Y'all gonna be okay. Y'all should make it. Y'all should make it. 7 wins right now. You had y'all at 9 wins when you did the schedule.
Yeah, 9 or 10. I think it was 9 wins. Yeah, because I think I had Dallas at 8 and 9 and us at 9 and 8. Yeah, most Giants points in a fourth quarter game in the NFL history is.
Oh yeah, be a good trivia question.
46 points.
And the
Detroit Lions and Tennessee Titans in 2012.
This one had 41.
Yeah, I think it was 41.
Yeah. That's real good. That's real good. Washington started off 1 of 6 on third down. Got to get off the better starts for sure.
Yeah, absolutely horrible. Big shout out to my guys, Paulie and G from the shop, also known as the Waterboys Network, with a $2 super chat. Noah Brown has no speed. That is something that's not talked about. And his drops. He's made big plays this year, but he's had some big drops. And the speed is a thing. Diami does need more burn, I think. If every time Diami touches the ball, it's a big play. He had 2 big plays in this game. So I'm right there with you, Paulie. I do think that they should look at Miami getting some more burn. Everybody that talks about Luke McCaffrey, they need more Luke. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more De'Ami Brown. You got to remember, Luke McCaffrey's only played wide receiver for 2 years, I think. So I like that point right here made by Paulie and the Waterboys Network for sure.
Yeah, absolutely a good point. You recognize in this game lack of separation from Noah Brown throughout. It's been like that throughout the season.
Yeah, big shout out once again to Paulie and G from the shop, also known as the Waterboys Network, on a $2 super chat. Says, don't get us started on cyber. Hail to the
Y'all had that
W.
other really good kicker, right? Was he? I was talking about him on the Giant Overreaction. Was he from the Jets? The kicker that y'all signed right at the beginning of the year that was killing it.
No, that's him. Is
this
Cyber.
him?
This is him. That's Cyber. So
he
was hurt.
He's been a shell of himself.
He was hurt, and he had been out for the last couple of weeks. We had Zane Gonzalez was been kicking for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
So this was his first game back.
This is his first game back. That's why now he's on injured reserve. That's why all these people have been coming after everybody saying that we rushed him back, that he shouldn't have been back. We should have just stuck with Zane Gonzalez. But if you remember, Seibert's literally been the best kicker in the NFL going up until when he got hurt. So it's a double-edged sword. I'm not gonna blame the coaching staff. The coaching staff watches the guy kick in practice all week long.
And like you said before the show, he made a 51-yard field goal. This is very eerily similar to what happened with the New York Giants and Graham Gano, where it was like, all right, bro's booting the kickoff here, and he's running down the field and getting sniped. All right, I mean, low snap on this one on the extra point, but he did miss an extra point earlier in the game. Yeah. Tough shit, man. He had a bad day at the office. That's really what it is. But big shout out to Paulie, man. For those of y'all that don't know, Paulie is the originator of The Streets Need a Body. That's exactly where that came from. So big shout out to the homie Paulie one time, man. All right, Beard, we got one more game to go over here, man. Our New York Giants. I see Monique was talking about that video she sent us in the group chat. That was
Josie was like, "You guys should play that on the podcast." I was like, "No, we shouldn't."
That was, as the Beard put it, as the young boys say, very diabolical of you, Monique, to send him that video. But we talked about this game I talked about this game for 3 hours yesterday on the Giant Overreaction. Definitely want to see what the Beard is talking about in this one. But let's talk about the Bucs traveling to MetLife to take on what is left of the New York Giants.
Giants are on the board with 11:16 to go here in the third.
Man, Beard, it was just like, 4 days ago, we were over here like, Tommy DeVito, I'm hype about it. You know what I'm saying?
We were doing our best to get everybody
trying to get
excited.
hyped up, man. Trying my best. And then I saw Baker Mayfield score that rushing touchdown, get up and do his celebration. Tommy DeVito looking at that Jumbotron like, man, I will slap the shit out of you right now, Baker. Don't you dare take my celebration.
Them Soprano goons was at the parking lot waiting for Baker after that.
You know what's crazy? It was like, on the broadcast for Giants games, you don't never see the Sopranos goons, right? You don't see them. But then as soon as Tommy DeVito comes out, the cameraman is searching in the crowd for the Sopranos Italian goons. It's kind of interesting. Mike Greenberg said on the Get Up this morning, as a fan of the New York Jets, at least we are not that. And he was talking about that being the New York Giants, who are now sitting at 2-9 on the season, have not started 2-9 since 2019, which was Daniel Jones' rookie year, where they started off 2-11 before getting their third victory of the season. The Giants are now on a 6-game losing streak, have not held a single lead at any point during any one of those 6 games right now.
Don't score points at all.
It's bad, bro. Giants are also, I was about to say 6-0. 0-6 at home right now. The Bucs came into MetLife on a 4-game losing streak, and in those 4 games, the Bucs defense had allowed 30 or more points in 3 of the 4 games. Over the last 2 games, the Bucs had allowed 31.3 points per game and over 425 yards of total offense. The Giants went out there and scored 7 points. The Giants are averaging 14.8 points per game on the year. It is tied for the lowest number of points per game in New York Giants franchise history. The Giants stink, man. There's no other way around it. Like, I thought we were bad when we had Daniel Jones at quarterback. This is not on Tommy DeVito, but the team around Tommy DeVito is worse now than the team that was around Daniel Jones at the beginning of the season. The Giants we're talking a score of 23-0 at the half, okay? Game was over at that point, all right? Giants had 3 first downs in the first half, 45 net yards. We're 0 for 4 on third down.
I went and counted all of them.
Look, let me tell you how I do, because when I'm doing the Bleacher Report recaps, you need numbers immediately after the game. So I calculated. I keep the box score open as I'm going through, and at the end of the first quarter, I take notes. At the end of the second half or second quarter, I take notes. And then at the end of the game, I take more notes and then compile up the graphics at the end of the day. It's very difficult to cover a game right after the game. But they were 0 for 4 on third down at the half. 2.5 yards per play. Tommy DeVito had already been sacked 3 times. The Giants had just 35 rushing yards. They were shut out in the first half for the second straight week, held the ball for only 10 minutes in the first half. Absolutely 0 trips to the red zone, 3 punts, and a turnover on downs. Just 4 possessions for the New York Giants. I'll let you talk about the third down stuff. 245 total yards. That's less yards than Saquon Barkley had by himself with the Philadelphia Eagles against the Rams last night. 169 passing yards, 3.8 yards per carry, 1 for 3 in the red zone. Again, 7 total points, 4.7 yards per pass. Let me tell you an interesting nugget here. On the 2024 season, the New York Giants are averaging 5.9 yards per attempt. Saquon Barkley is averaging 6.1 yards per carry. That's not even the saddest part about it, okay? At home, the New York Giants have been pathetic at home. The Giants have 2 passing touchdowns all year. At home, all year. Just 5 total touchdowns from this offense at home. What are we doing when we have the ball?
I don't know what you're doing.
I don't know what we're doing. Against the NFC East.
Going for it in your own territory.
And listen, Brian Dable has been lucky enough to be able to convert these 4th downs normally. This is the first time that Brian Dable got burned on going for it in his own territory on 4th down. It's been a puzzling, interesting year because had he have not gained some of these necessary yards on 4th down in earlier portions of the year, people will be calling for his job even worse than they are right now. Now, against the NFC East, the Giants have just 2 rushing touchdowns and 4 passing on the year, bro. On the year, they have 6 total touchdowns going up against the NFC East. We have just 2 passing touchdowns in the 4th quarter all year, and we don't have a single passing touchdown in the 1st quarter all season. All season, bro, they have not thrown a passing touchdown in the 1st quarter. Tommy DeVito got the start in this game. It was his 7th start of his short-lived career here. Came in 3-3, 2-0 at MetLife Stadium. Sacked on the first drop back. Since week 4, the Bucs have more sacks than any other team in the NFL.
On that one sack.
He did get destroyed. The Bucs do have more sacks than any other team in the NFL since week 4. They have at least 2 sacks in 7 straight games. Tommy DeVito sacked 4 times, 3 times in the first half. He was 21 of 31 for 189 yards, a QBR of 14.8. I thought that this was the most hilarious stat. Daniel Jones completed 22 passes for 190 yards in his last game. In Tommy DeVito's last game, he completed just 1 less completion for just 1 less yard. 21 completions for 189 yards, where Daniel Jones had 190 on 22 completions versus the Carolina Panthers. No catches from Jalen Hyatt. No catches from Darius Slayton. Tommy DeVito was blitzed on 51 of his 31 dropbacks. He played pretty well against the blitz. He was 11 of 15 for 113 yards. Pressured 17 times. That's 54% of his dropbacks. A pressure to sack rate of 23.5%. Tommy DeVito had 5 yards at the end of the 1st quarter. And Brian Dable, it looked like he was trying to rely on the run a little bit more in the first half. And that really is not the best plan of attack for the New York Giants. I would have just allowed Tommy DeVito to go out here and just throw the ball. Quick game passing, just like you talked about with the Commanders. We saw them do that in the, late in the 3rd, into the 4th quarter, and had a little bit of success. I think that's where Tommy DeVito did most of his damage. He now comes away from this game. They're saying he has an injured forearm. Shout out my dog, OG Steve. OG Steve was in the Twitter spaces today talking about he's not going to play this week, and we're talking about a fucking forearm. His forearm's hurt, guys. I'm like, is it on his throwing arm or not? But shout out to OG Steve, man. Nonetheless, definitely one of the more critical Giants fans. Baker Mayfield, man, just straight up just sliced and diced us up, man. 24 of 30 for 294. No passing touchdowns, no mistakes on the day. He did drop a fumble, but they recovered it back. Had the 1 rushing touchdown. Baker needed just 1 passing touchdown to get to 25, which would have been the 4th time in his career. Good to get Mike Evans back. 5 receptions for 68 yards. Now, this is what I really want to talk about here. Malik Neighbors. I've had some time to digest the comments after the game. He was upset, obviously not happy. 0 catches in the first half. Finished with 9 targets, 6 receptions for 64 yards. He has not scored a touchdown since week 3 in Cleveland. 671 yards on the season. That's 20th in the NFL. He has 67 receptions, which is 7th in the NFL. I remember conversations that we were having in the Twitter spaces when we first drafted Malik Neighbors and how many targets he would get, and people saying he wasn't going to get over 100 targets on the season. And I'm like, bro, in a down year with the Dallas Cowboys, Amari Cooper had just over 100 targets. Now Malik Neighbors has 108 targets on the year. Is 3rd in the NFL. He's got double-digit targets in 6 of his 9 games that he has played in. Not 1 game on the season under 7 targets. They spoiled him with 18 targets going up against your Washington Commanders, 15 targets against the Dallas Cowboys, 13 targets against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's averaging 10 yards per reception on the season. I can't say it enough. Those are like tight end numbers right there when you're talking about 10 yards per reception. He has just 2 games where he's averaging over 11 yards per reception. And like I said, I've had a little bit of time to let this all sink in. And after the game, he complained about not getting the ball until being down 30-0, right? I understand his frustrations. The part that's puzzling to me when looking back at some of the interviews from after the game and his interview today, I don't think he had to throw Brian Dable under the bus when they asked him, why aren't you getting the ball in the first half? And this is a guy who let his emotions get the best of him in that presser. Chomping it. Look, let me just pull it up because I don't know if the beard saw it all. So let's just pull it up, or maybe the fans didn't see it all.
Yeah.
Beyond the gum, just so y'all could hear what he was talking about.
How disappointed are you?
Very.
What are you most disappointed about?
I mean, shit's over, man. I'm tired of going out there and losing. Like, it's just that. I mean, I don't know, bro. Go out there first, second quarter, don't get the ball, start getting targets at the end. I mean, can't do nothing. Start getting the ball when it's 30-0. What you want me to do?
Why in the first half are they not looking at you?
I don't know. Talk to Davis about that.
Malik, did you expect the quarterback change to provide more of a spark than it did?
I mean, obviously, it ain't the quarterback. Same outcome when we had DJ at quarterback. I mean, take a look. Take a look. It ain't the quarterback. I don't know what it is. Everybody know better than me.
Is it the play call? We'll take 3 more.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know what it is. But I know I'm tired of losing. Straight up. I don't know. I'm playing my heart out. I'm getting everything I got.
So, I've seen a lot of Giants fans saying that they stand with him for speaking up, and even though he's a rookie, he should be able to speak up. And I do 100% agree with that. Big Dash knows who's one of my dogs. I saw him tweet out something earlier right before we came on air that said, say it louder for the people in the back. If the vets won't be vocal, why not? The Giants way needs an overhaul. And I do agree with a lot of that. Malik Neighbors came out today and he said, I'm not going to just sit back just because I'm a younger guy and just not speak on how I feel. They want me to speak up. My thing is this: when you speak up, what are you actually speaking about? There was nothing in that press conference to me that I deemed necessary to say. Some of it is, none of it was constructive really either, right? It's not like he's going up there giving you answers about where they need to go. To me, it was a little bit immature, which I would expect from a 21-year-old. This dude just got his, he's at the age where he can finally have a fucking beard now, right? So he's a young guy. And honestly, I don't think that the New York Giants should be throwing this guy out there to talk to the media after every game, but they're the ones that put him in the position that put this weight on his shoulders to become the guy who was going to be Daniel Jones' #1 target and really the engine for the way that the New York Giants offense is going to operate. But I've read you the numbers. This dude is 3rd in the league in targets. Okay, I understand you didn't get the ball in the first half, but to me, that's no reason to go up there in front of the press, chomping the hell out of your gum, giving attitude, calling these people bruh, it's just a bunch of extra shit, to be honest, right? Yeah. And we saw it from a guy like Odell Beckham, but we didn't see it from a guy like Odell Beckham 11 games into his rookie season. We didn't see that. To me, a lot of his actions screamed diva. It screamed privilege. It screamed a guy who, to me, I think could have went out there in front of the media and just dodged the questions, but instead was saying a little bit too much. And that has been a reoccurring theme this season. So to me, it's like, if you're going to speak up, have some points. Speak about something that has validity to it. They asked you, was it the play calling? And you had no answer for that. At the end of the day, you're a guy that's getting more targets than any rookie wide receiver that I can remember. And your productivity on the field has not been that great. And out of your mouth, you said, 1, go ask Dable, and 2, it's not the quarterback. So are we 100% blaming it on Brian Dable and his play calling of why you aren't getting the ball?
Yes, he is. Absolutely.
It's crazy to me. One last thing, Beard, before you take over on that. You know why shit like that happens? Because the Giants have no fucking leaders.
Yeah.
That's why that happens. And then 1000%. Dexter Lawrence doubled down on it and said, yeah, he's right. Because he's not a leader either.
Listen, this is what happens. I agree with what you're saying, yes, right? And but I understand it. I feel like there's a difference between, like, not necessarily thinking what he did was right or necessary, right? Without everything building up to this. Because this is the bed that the Giants laid. Like, right? They made this bed.
Yeah.
The reason why Malik Neighbors is in this situation saying what he's saying is because of the Giants and what the Giants have done. From the day they signed Daniel Jones to the contract to the whole mess of a coordinator situation and Dable calling plays, to letting all of your veteran leaders walk, to relying on rookies to start at 4 or 5 major positions on both sides of the ball, to losing, to starting Tommy DeVito. All of this is just, it's a snowball domino effect, right? So do we blame Malik Neighbors for being 21 years old and having all of this build up to him, and now he just kind of lets it all loose? I mean, yes, he needs to be more professional about it to a certain extent. Can he get the message across that he needed to get across in a better manner and being more constructive and, kind of trying to at least be subliminal about the Brian Dable stuff? Absolutely. I'm not going to make a big deal about it one way or another, because I think sometimes you need to see how bad things are to really feel how bad things are. And I would imagine that, the coaching staff, the front management, not even management, the ownership has to see that and be like, oh, man,
yeah,
this is, because listen, sometimes, ownership is blinded by certain things. You cannot be blinded by this. This is the guy. This is your future right now. You don't.
This is one where John Mara is sitting there like, wait a minute. One, I gave these guys the luxury to go out there and draft a quarterback publicly with Daniel Jones on the roster making $40 million during that year. Mara went out there and publicly said these guys could go get their quarterback. 2, Saquon fucking Barkley. This guy has to watch Saquon Barkley in Philly when Chris Rossetti was in the room. You know these guys are hired, right, to be assistants and consultants to the general manager. That is why a guy like Brandon Brown is in the room with Joe Shane when he's making decisions. That is why Chris Rossetti was in the room when Joe Shane said, $7 million is about what I would value Saquon Barkley at, and I don't foresee a team paying him much more than that. Chris Rossetti said, hey, man, you sure about that, bro? Like, what about the Philadelphia Eagles over there? The team like that's pushing for the Super Bowl. And you know what not a lot of people talking about is when he said that, right? A team that's pushing for the Super Bowl. He clearly wasn't looking at the New York Giants as one of those teams, right? So he says that he's there to be a consultant, and you completely ignore it, to the point where your boss comes into the office to talk to you about this situation and says, listen, man, I'm not going to have I'm going to have a hard time sleeping if Saquon Barkley goes to Philly. And you up there like, well, what I heard is Philly's out and Chicago's raising the price up on Saquon.
Can I say something? I hate to be one of these guys, right? Because we're a fact-based duo here, and we don't deal in a lot of conspiracies and he says, hearsay sort of stuff, right? There's a part of me that wants to sit here and be like, I think he just made that whole shit up.
The $7 million?
The Chicago Bears driving up the price and Philly's out. Like, he just was kind of like, how sometimes you just kind of say something to your boss to kind of get him off your back?
He corrected it, though, in that same clip. He says, I don't know about how much of that is true, but I'm willing to make some calls, but I don't know how much I'm going to get out of it.
Did he call anybody, though? That's what I
don't know. I don't know. But he knew, point being is that he knew that there was that could be true or could not be true.
Yeah.
Because he vocalized it to his owner. So at the end of the day, this is a guy that does not have a good gauge on the market, for one. That's clear as day. That you thought that Saquon Barkley was going to get $7 million, and maybe there were some rumblings around the NFL that was saying this, because look, at the end of the day, Derrick Henry went to the Baltimore Ravens, a much better situation. Well, I can't even say much better than the Philadelphia Eagles, but he went to a really good situation with Lamar Jackson at quarterback. Might have took a little bit less money, and I think that's how much they gave him. I think they gave him $7 or $8 million, which is fucking crazy. That the NFL is valuing these guys who are clearly playmakers. What's the statistic that you put in the chat on the Giant overreaction?
Yeah, so Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, and Derrick Henry are the three leading rushers in the NFL, and their records for their teams are like 29-7 or something like that, and their former teams are like 7-36 or something like that. You know, you get the point.
Yeah, and for me, the question I had when I first heard you say that statistic was, well, where were these teams at record-wise before they left? Because they weren't on good teams like that, right? The Tennessee Titans were not really a good team last year. The New York Giants were not a good team last year. And obviously the Las Vegas Raiders were not a good team last year. But it's just more reasoning like, listen, you have to stack the good players. You look at the Baltimore Ravens and their roster, okay? They got a bunch of dogs. Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson, Isaiah Likely. They got Zay Flowers and now Derrick Henry. And you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, and they have all these dogs over there. Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, and now Saquon Barkley. Can't forget about Dallas Goedert. For some reason, I don't know why fans can't get it through their head that they think for some reason that, well, because we're a bad team, that means we don't need to keep our good players, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous when you're not cleaning house, especially.
Exactly. But you can't say to me that this goes back to the whole compete while we rebuild sort of situation, right? Like you either have to do it or you don't do it. But like, I don't know. The Hard Knocks thing is it's going to go down as one of the craziest things ever because they're the first preseason, that style of Hard Knocks.
The off-season of the Hard Knocks.
Off-season Hard Knocks, right?
Yeah, where you got to see what's going on. I loved it. It was such a great series, and I cannot wait to watch another team. I really wish that my team was doing it again, but that can't happen. But it's gonna be amazing.
Inside look again because
I want that. That was amazing.
It is because now you it's just there's so many quotables from the Hard Knocks that you're seeing now play in front of your eyes and unfold in real life time.
What was awesome about it is people had so many remarks and comments about it when it was happening, right? And when I would go up there and say, Joe Shane looks nervous, or, John Mara might be right on this, or when I said, Tim McDonald asking, what is the identity of the New York Giants without Saquon Barkley, is a really good question where literally everybody on Twitter, I promise you, 90% of the people on Twitter, even some of my homies, were like, that's a stupid-ass question to ask. Get rid of Tim McDonald. Now it plays out right in front of us like you just said, right? And you really realize that, one, these aren't stupid questions. Now the general manager, when it looked a little puzzling at the time and people were debating it and arguing it, now these people have nothing really to say.
And I mean, think about the $40 million quarterback handing off to the whatever. God. Think about how that looks now. Neither one of them are on your team now.
Neither one of them are on the team. And they literally had Daniel Jones handing the ball off to not a $12 million running back, but a $5 million running back and a rookie drafted in the 5th round. All of it makes no sense. And I can't go without talking about this game without talking about the defense too. Yeah. Our defense now, because there's no leadership on that side of the ball, on both sides of the ball, but you don't have an Xavier McKinney as a captain that's going out there and saying we need to go out here and die on these shields. The Giants defense has given up. The Giants defense had 4 pressures.
481 yards they allowed.
481 yards, 4 total pressures, bro. This is a defensive line that they touted as one of the top 10, top 5 defensive lines when we signed Brian Burns. 0 interceptions in 10 straight games. It's an NFL record, man.
0 sacks.
0 sacks. 0 on the day. Dexter Lawrence getting double teamed, triple teamed the whole entire game. I saw one play. I can't remember. I think it was Bobby from Talking Giants who posted it. Dexter Lawrence was getting triple teamed. He was just like, man, screw this, man. I'm not even going to try to get after the quarterback. It's like when you getting jumped by 3 people and you go, I'm taking one of y'all with me. Mm-hmm. He literally grabbed one of the offensive linemen that was triple teaming him and just took him to the ground, pancaked him on the ground. He didn't care about getting after the quarterback. 0 sacks on Baker Mayfield is unacceptable. Brian Burns' pass rush win rate, 7%. Kayvon Thibodeau back in this game, 13.6%. And every other Giants player on that front, 0% win rate. 4 total pressures, man. How many times did Baker Mayfield drop back in this game? It was Baker. Baker was.
It's going to come up here in a second. Well, I mean, at least his attempts are going to come up. There were 30 attempts.
30 dropbacks, you got 4 pressures, man.
At least 30 dropbacks.
6 passes from it was 30 because he didn't get sacked, right? Maybe he ran on a couple.
He did run on a couple. He ran 4 touchdowns.
Ran 4
they gave
touchdowns,
up
right?
4 rushing touchdowns in this game.
Just a terrible performance. And, you talked about this in y'all game about, like, knowing a team's weakness when you go in and capitalizing on that. And everyone knows that the New York Giants' rush defense has been terrible. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they went out there and they gave the ball to Bucky Irving. They gave the ball to Rashad White. They gave the ball to, what's my dude?
Sean Tucker, our former barber.
I was about to say Chris Tucker. Sean Tucker, our former barber. This has just been a pathetic performance the last couple of weeks, and the Giants are falling apart. And I'm obviously worried about Brian Daboll, a guy who I think didn't forget how to coach. But when you're going out there, and if you're not tanking and there's a sort of an agreement in the front office and with the owner that you're tanking, Brian Daboll is looking like a bit of a dead man walking right now. And this is what I propose to you as far as a question here. I know that you talked about firing Joe Shane, firing Brian Daboll. I want to know if you think it needs to happen before the season is over.
Yes.
When do you foresee it going down?
Man, listen. I like Mondays, right?
Yep. The Giants are going to have a long weekend if they lose to the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving.
It depends on how bad it gets in this game. Like, if they lose like 43 to like 9 or 43 to like 6 on Thanksgiving, you're gonna be hard
crazy
pressed
for that Cowboys offense. That would be crazy
because you're gonna be on national television Thanksgiving. The world's gonna be watching. They might not be watching because it's a snooze fest of a game. But let's be honest. There's not a American household. My mom's house. We ain't never had a TV in our living room our entire lives. Mm-hmm. I went to my mom's house the other day. There's a big screen TV in the living room in front of the baby's crib, and I said, "Mom, what's the TV?" She's like, "Oh, it's for Thanksgiving." I was like, "So everybody's going to be watching this game one way or another."
Absolutely.
So if you get completely embarrassed, it's going to be hard to like.
Well, let's say they don't get embarrassed. Let's say it's like 26-10. Let's say it's 24-10.
Maybe they get another week. For me, I would just do it now, right? Because
before the Thanksgiving game?
Not before the Thanksgiving game, because I think that's a little reckless, and it's not fair to the players to fire your coaches on a short week. Right?
I'm right there with you on that.
But I do think that, in my opinion, because I've been preaching this for the last umpteen weeks here about the Giants because of what I've experienced as a Commanders fan. I think that it's better to do it. If you're going to do it because you want to get a leg up, right? You want to get your committee together. You want to get your consultants in, the people that you're going to rely on for the search of I seen some team hired the media company to do their GM and coach search. Who was it? The New York Jets hired a 33rd team to help them with the process. But like, if you think about what the Commanders did, they brought in all those people, the Mitch Kupchaks and the guy from the Lakers and ex-court, like all these people in to help them build this search.
Yeah.
And I think that the more time that you have, the more you can do, right? Like, if you're going to fire both these guys, what's the point? Because
did you guys fire Ron Rivera mid-season or end of the season? End of the season, right?
End of the season, but we did fire the defensive coordinator, and that was a little bit of a different situation because we had already gotten our GM.
Yeah.
Right? Adam Peters was the GM already. So there was a little bit difference there. For me, it's just, and I heard somebody I was talking with on Twitter, they were like, but why are we going to do that? Because we can't clean house because they're already doing all the scouting. This is why you got to do it now because you want to at least have a consulting crew in-house to kind of take care of this sort of transitional period, because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a very important transitional period. So the more time you have to transition and find your guys and do the research on who you want to be the next guys, the better. Because if you wait till the end of the season and you fire these two, right, you got a couple of months now to kind of start working the phones and working the research and stuff like that. I'm sure they already have there's no doubt in my mind that ownership already has people looking into new head coaches and new GMs right now.
Absolutely.
So for me, I would just get it out the way because it's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse for the New York Giants moving forward. So what's the point?
My gut tells me that John Mara is going to give these guys another year, but if it was up to me, I would fire both of them before the season's over. I'd wait out this Dallas game and be proactive on it. Win or loss, I'd probably fire them both. The Giants right now, points per game, dead last. Points per play, dead last. Red zone efficiency, dead last. Touchdowns per game, dead last. And we're talking about a guy that's supposed to be an offensive mind. I watched Cop Pizzle's video today that he released yesterday. I watched it today. And even Cop Pizzle said fire their asses. And Cop Pizzle's very pro New York Giants. He's all about supporting his guys and whatnot. And to me, it was a real, like, it just stood out. It stood out to me. Somebody that I look at as one of the most pro guys when it comes to the New York Giants is saying, wrote a video letter pretty much to John Mara, like, these guys are terrible. You need to go out here and fire them. And today there was a lot of conversations on Twitter between me and a couple of homies talking about Dave Gettleman in comparison to Joe Schoen. And I've gotten word from a couple of we'll call them a couple of plugs that I know that said Brian Dable is a dead man walking, but they haven't said much about Joe Schoen. When you look at Joe Schoen, I was having a conversation back and forth with Monty and Spiros from New York Revival about this today on Twitter, and a lot of respect for Monty, who just like will rebuttal you with a lot of substance. So I said in the thread that Dave Gettleman has had 32 picks in 4 drafts. He had 32 picks in 4 drafts. Joe Schoen has 24 picks in 3 drafts. So Dave Gettleman has had 8 more picks than Joe Schoen. They both average 8 picks a year. Each of them had 3 top 10 picks. Dave Gettleman had 14 top 100 picks in 4 years, which is 3.5 per year. And Joe Schoen had 11 top 100 picks in 3 seasons, which is 3.6 per year. To me, it's looking like Joe Schoen is a worse general manager than Dave Gettleman. And that's why I posted those things. And Dave Gettleman not only gave him 4 all-pro players, when we're talking about Xavier McKinney, we're talking about Saquon Barkley, we're talking about Dexter Lawrence and Andrew Thomas. And Joe Schoen let 2 of those guys walk in free agency. Dave Gettleman also gave him 11 draft picks when they got there in 2022, 2 top 10 first-round picks, and still, both of those guys, they're not all pros. Evan Neal's an absolute bust. Kayvon Thibodeau's looked at as maybe a salvageable draft pick at that point. A guy that's dealt with injuries in multiple seasons already. But Monty responded back with Dave Gettleman had more first-round capital. He had picks 2, 4, 6, 11, and 17, and 30, where Joe Schoen had picks 5, 6, 7, and 24. And he broke it down on a point scale that is a point scale that Jimmy Johnson actually created back in the early 90s. And he said that Joe Schoen's first-round picks are 3,000 points less than what Dave Gettleman had, as a reasoning of why we need to look at Dave Gettleman's drafts with a little bit more data there. You want to have more context, is what he was saying. To me, that we're just comparing these 2 guys in the same conversation kind of lets you know that Joe Schoen has been terrible at his job. We talked about the free agent signings and the list of those last show.
Yeah.
I challenge y'all to go take a look. And you can hit me up on Twitter. I'll tag you in the post that Big Dash put out there with every one of the free agent signings from Joe Schoen's era. It has been terrible. Both of these guys have been terrible. And it's a shame that the New York Giants community and fan base has had to deal with this since 2018. And if they do end up keeping Joe Schoen around, this will be pushing pretty much a decade of negligence at the general manager position. You could even go back to the later years of Jerry Reese, which weren't that great either. But, you look at the roster from 2021 that the New York Giants had and that they fielded. The roster in 2021 is better than the roster that Joe Schoen has today, which only has 4 players now left from the Dave Gettleman era now that he has released Daniel Jones. So, to me, this is a general manager that has came in and not done his job. And Brian Dable's a guy that I'm still a little up in the air about as far as firing, but I would be okay with it, obviously. Joe Schoen, to me, is a guy that absolutely needs to be fired right now. Once you get back from Dallas, it wouldn't hurt me one way or the other if the Giants went the direction of firing both of these guys. But my gut tells me that John Mayer is going to keep both of them around, and we're going to have to deal with this for another season.
See, for me, I got into a debate with somebody about they said to keep them for another year, and I said I think keeping them for another year could quite possibly be the worst outcome possible, the most detrimental to your franchise. I mean, obviously that it's already been pretty bad because nothing against Cam Ward and Shador Sanders, who I think are both going to be fantastic, NFL pro quarterbacks. But you really dropped the ball so much because there was so much opportunity in this past draft. And obviously that's hindsight. I totally understand that. But
Is it though?
I mean, yeah, it's not really, but I'm giving the people who I'm debating with the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
So for argument's sake. And so what outside of that, like I mean, there's so many red flags between the contract, the Daniel Jones contract to Saquon, to Xavier McKinney, to this draft right here, right? What have Brian Dable and Joe Shane done outside of a one playoff win? And this is the thing that's crazy to me is that, like, it's not like they won that playoff game and then, like, lost a nail biter in the next round.
Right.
They won the
out.
playoff game against the worst passing defense in the league, and they got absolutely destroyed in the next playoff game. But it's like, oh, they won the playoff game. Like,
yeah, people skipped over that Eagles game. It's
they
weird.
just completely skipped over that playoff game against the Eagles. Like, we're just throwing out, blue ribbons now for one playoff game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, what have they shown you? What proof? What evidence? There is nothing.
There is nothing.
And then you want to give me Tyrone Tracy? You're going to give me Newman?
Yeah, we got rookies taking snaps.
That's
pretty much what Joe Shane said.
Those are the gold stars that you're going to give me as proof to let you try. Not only have you failed once with a top 10 draft pick, we're gonna let you do it again with no quarterback on the roster. We're just gonna allow you to do there's no way that you should allow that to happen. It shouldn't happen. Like,
I wonder if Brian Dable was okay with Joe Shane saying we're comfortable with the quarterback room as is after they brought in July.
And this other thing is, like, the people that debate me, they're like, well, it's not Shane and Dable. This is all Mara, right?
I hate that excuse, man.
And so
I
want to, and I say to them, I said, listen, you're talking to somebody who's coming from a multi-decade experience of an owner dipping his toes into the GM, right?
Yeah.
If this is the case, let's say, I say once again, what evidence and proof do you have?
Do you even think that Dan Snyder was involved in all the picks?
I mean, there's the evidence was presented.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, do you think that he was out there making the picks?
No, I don't
or do you think that he was allowing? That's what I'm asking. Do you think he was allowing his general manager to do his job to an extent?
No.
Or do you think he was like, nah, we're not doing that?
Yeah, that was Dan Snyder for sure. On
and
the
you
Dwayne
think that
Haskins
was the case?
Pick, 100%.
Now I'm not talking about a one pick thing.
Multiple times?
I'm talking about through the draft. Listen to the question, very clear and concise here, right? Do you think that he's hiring a general manager, Dan Snyder is hiring a general manager to come in and not do his job? That Dan Snyder goes, you know what? We got 8 picks in the draft this year. I need to approve every one of those picks. You think he's doing that?
No, absolutely not.
I don't think so either.
One person that's doing that in the NFL, and it's Jerry Jones.
I don't even think Jerry Jones is doing that.
I was going to say
I don't think he's doing that. Like, how the last year the assistant got to draft his son and he was in the draft room for the Dallas Cowboys? I don't think Jerry Jones had shit to do with that. I don't think that Jerry Jones is confident enough and doesn't even look at enough tape on college players to go out here and be drafting a motherfucking joker in the 5th or 6th round. There's no way. There's no way that any GM in the NFL is doing that, because that's why they hire those dudes.
Why would you take the job? Why would you take the job?
Why would you take the job? And that makes you negligent at that point. If you take a job where a guy like Jerry Jones or a guy like Dan Snyder or a guy like John Mara in this case is going to tell you who to pick, well, you a bozo for that, and you get blamed for that as well.
It's your responsibility as a general manager to convince your owner that they're wrong.
Yeah.
If that's what they're trying to tell you.
Honestly, that's what integrity really is. I come from the music industry where a lot of people will sell their soul and sell their integrity, and they'll let somebody come in and dictate what they should be doing with their career. You a sucker for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's straight up and down. If you allow somebody to come in and hire you to be a puppet and a face for the franchise, you a sucker for that. And if Joe Schoen is allowing that, then he's a sucker for that.
And it's going to affect you for the rest of your career. Joe Schoen's a young guy. Why would
would you do that?
Why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense.
And I'm not saying that John Mara might not have dipped in, like you said, on the Dwayne Haskins pick, maybe with the Daniel Jones contract, maybe with the Daniel Jones drafting, maybe with one or two situations. Saquon Barkley giving a little bit of, 2 cents there, being like, you sure this right? I'm not saying it's not going down like that.
Yeah.
But for these people who make this argument that think like it's all John Mara, he's the one who signed Daniel Jones and he's the one who gave him the money, and it's not. It can't be. Why would you have all these people in the room having these conversations to then overrule them in every one of the situations? It don't make no sense to me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So for me, the bottom line is that, and the other one that kills me too is the report where it's like, he comes out and listen, if somebody comes out and says something in football, in the NFL, if you haven't learned anything over the last, we'll just say 5 years, they mean the complete opposite of what they're telling the media. More times than not. So when he comes out and says, we want some stability, I don't want to be changing the front office and the coaching every 3 years. Bullshit.
Ooh.
Right now, you have to do it. To do it.
Yeah, I really do think you do. And Giants Realist came in with a really good point here on the Super Chat here one time.
Big shout out to Giants Realist for $5 Super Chat. Says, hey, fellas, I might be going off the deep end here. You let me know. Get me Dion and Shador in New York. I want something different than the usual Giants way.
I've been talking about that a lot up here. Like everyone's like, I don't want to deal with the fiasco and the sideline show of Deion Sanders being on the sidelines while Shador's the quarterback. We need that. We need to shake things up in New York. The Giants, I've said this before on this channel before. The Giants had the nerve, and shout out to my homie D Brown, the first person I heard say this. They had the nerve to be a team that started off 2-8 last season, come into this season and have the brand say, our way. We've been losing for a decade. Do you know how arrogant that is and how foolish that is? Give me Shador Sanders. And if you're talking about Deion Sanders as a head coach, listen, I'm not going to be up here complaining about it. I don't think it's the top option right now. But if they hired Deion Sanders as a head coach, a culture, a navigator, a guy that has already proven he could do it with Colorado, I'm not going to sit up here and be complaining about Deion Sanders. So sign me up.
Yeah, it's obviously a huge hypothetical thing, but I don't think anybody would be upset about it, right?
You damn right people would be upset about it. There's already people on Twitter complaining about it.
I mean, like logical thinkers, like how we are, like how you said, like it's not necessarily your first choice to go this route, right? But I mean, it can't be any worse than what the hell we've been going through for the last 10 years here in New York.
Careful what you ask for, right? Hey, I didn't think it could get any worse. And then look at this year, man. It's like, what is going on with the Giants right now? And listen, I'm not going to say I know that if Deion Sanders and Shador Sanders get to New York, with the way that New York is set up, some of the conversations we were having on the Giant Overreaction the other day, these people will be up in arms losing their shit.
Yeah, the
white
people are not, they're not going to be too keen.
They're not going to be happy about that. Nah, some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
All of them, hell no. The comments I get on Twitter, I already know what time it is up there with some of these fans.
They want Bill Belichick and Carson Beck.
Yeah, and Bill Belichick, I'm all good with that. Carson Beck, no, sir. No, sir. And we had another good comment here, too, when it comes to the general managers. And this wasn't a super chat, but I wanted to highlight this one right here from 13th Giant. He says, wouldn't Steve Tisch have an issue if he felt John Mara was a part of the problem? It's not like Mara's a lone wolf, right? So imagine this, Beard. It's me and you. We own the New York Giants. We both have equal shares in the New York Giants, but I allow you to deal with more of the football operations. It's your family that really bought the New York Giants, and paid the $500 and all that. So I'll let you handle the football operations. But when it comes time for big-time decisions, I'm going to pull up like Steve Tisch does when New York Giants have issues. And then I get word that you dibbling and dabbling with doing things that are outside of what your job truly is. Now you trying to play general manager, you trying to play head of the scouting department, and you're playing the guy who's paying some of these players when it comes to the contracts. This is a great point that nobody's bringing up here. You think I would be cool with that?
Yeah,
New York
and-
Giants sitting at 2-9 2 years in a row, and the Beard's making moves that are outside of his qualifications. You don't think I'm going to pull up and be like, yo, Beard, the hell is you doing?
Yeah, that'd be like me just like rolling up here with all new graphics and intros and everything.
Right? And I'll be like, what the
No, and you know what's interesting though is the first thing that comes to my mind, right? And I see it in here. Blaze and Brazen says, Steve Tisch don't care as long as the money keeps rolling in. Let me tell you something. From a fan of a team who kept losing and didn't do nothing and had the owners dipping in. Eventually, that money stops rolling in.
You know why that money stops rolling in?
Because you're
not winning games.
Yeah. And listen,
That's it.
So like if once the money starts, he starts feeling the effects from the money, and when you dude, it's bad. It just has to end. It's gotta end. It's got.
I love this. I love this point right here. I love this point right
It's
here. You know,
spot
I
on.
love it when our chat brings something up that nobody has talked about yet. Like, I have not seen anybody talk about Steve Tisch and his role and how he would have an issue with these fans that are saying, man, John Mara's just out there like, man, second round? Nah, go get Tyler Nubin. Like, it's not they're not operating like that.
Do the Giants sell out every game though? Blaze and
No.
Brazen says that they still sell out.
Not every game. There's no way
No way.
no way that stadium was sold out against the Bucs on Sunday.
And listen to me, you do start losing money. I know you guys think that this is the NFL.
They gave away free Pepsis last year because the fans were just like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah,
They gave away free Pepsis, medium at that.
Trust me, you go look at the you can look at the income, the money that their teams are making. You can look at that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys were one of the more profitable franchises in the past. New York Giants weren't up there, but they were near the top of the NFL for sure. They do have a large fan base.
Washington was one of the highest grossing teams in the NFL in all of sports. And then Dan
and
Snyder
Blazing
took
is saying
over.
to check out the attendance records, but you also have to understand the market too. The market and how many seats are in the stands. The MetLife is one of the larger stadiums. It's not like where the Commander Stadium was and where Jerry World is, but they're one of the stadiums that's up there that can hold a lot of fans as well. And it's a big market. But at the end of the day, you have to look at the cost of the things they're investing in versus the amount of money that they are making. Dog, we're paying these players a lot of money, and they're not getting wins.
Tickets to the Colts game
Are they really?
$17.
I might pull up. You know I love a good bargain, Beard.
Shout out Big Dog Status says Shador at quarterback, Dion at head coach, and Brandon Brown is a GM.
Oh, we lit for the culture, big dog. For the culture, man. Yeah, the Giants are a complete circus right now.
You are
And-
the Washington Commanders of past.
You want to know why I think it's a little bit worse, Beard? Just a little bit worse? I didn't think y'all were the worst team in football.
That is the only difference. But yes,
That is the only difference,
it's
right?
a big difference too.
The Giants are the worst team in football right now. And the Carolina Panthers prove that. And, I mean, listen, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're looking really bad right now with 2 wins as well. But I still think that if we played them today, they would beat us.
Yeah, especially with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback.
Yeah, and he's getting back healthy, and that's good news for me. Tennessee Titans got to win. Dallas Cowboys got to win.
The Giants won't win another game this year. I don't think you have to. You just have to hope that nobody else loses out. Also,
Yeah, the Jacksonville
are you going to
Jaguars
pick the
mainly.
Giants to win a game again this year?
Am I going to pick them? No. Because I think that the 2 chances for them to win a game is going to be up against the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday, and then possibly against the Colts. Maybe that's it.
See,
Saints.
and I would think otherwise, but now the fact that the defense is just like,
Yeah, they're checked out. And then,
Yeah.
it's wild to say this, but like no Daniel Jones, I think that possibility of like a fluke W is gone. Because Daniel Jones, the problem with Jones when he was here the whole time was inconsistency.
yeah,
If he was consistent, he could have been an average guy.
Yeah.
So we don't have that right now.
And you'll be like, oh, he's back.
Yeah,
And
and then it's like you get blown out again. He throws 2 picks, and you're like, God damn it.
And then Tommy DeVito comes in, and we're all like excited. Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
because
You know that was Fugazi,
yeah, I know
though.
that. I know that.
You know it was
we're
Nick
gonna get
Fugazi.
it. We're gonna get a spark. We're gonna get a spark. We're
Yeah,
gonna change things up. We're gonna get a spark, bro. It's 7 points again. When
Yeah,
was the last
it's
time
bad.
you guys have only scored 20 points once all year, right?
I know we scored 20 against
Seattle.
the Seattle Seahawks when we scored 29, and I think there might be one other game. I think there was one other game maybe where we scored 20. Didn't we get when we beat the Browns? Was it 20? 20-17?
Maybe
Something like that, maybe. Who knows? Doesn't matter at this point. Giants are just a complete just shit show. They're mop water. They're taking they're taking the leftover dog water from your dog's bowl, pouring it into the mop bucket to make mop water. That's what the New York Giants are
and
right
boiling
now.
hot dogs in it.
Well, the boiling would cleanse the water, so I think that'd be a little bit, a little bit too in the wrong direction for where the New York Giants are. But it's been bad, man. It's been bad, but don't want to keep anybody here any longer. We've talked about the New York Giants now for about a good 5 hours in the past 2 days. I mean, I know we sprinkled in a little bit of Philadelphia Eagles and some Washington Commanders and Dallas Cowboys, but it's going to be good to get past Week 12, man. This was the toughest week for Giants fans, I feel like. Just the way we got blown out, 23-0 at the half. It was a tough week. And for your Washington Commanders, it was a tough loss to the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys are up right now. This feels like, all the other
Old
years
times.
on Authentic
Feels
in the
like
Beard.
old times.
It feels like old times, right? Eagles at the top, Dallas Cowboys get the dub. Yeah, it feels a lot like that. But any last words for the gang here before we get them up out of here, Beard?
Nah, man. Oh, listen. We forgot to talk about this, and it's my fault because I forgot to bring it up. But we'll figure out what we're going to be doing for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I will be on Bleacher Report doing the recap of the Giants game at around 7:30-ish, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I don't know how we're necessarily going to do this preview show before Commanders play on Sunday, correct?
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk after the show, but just stay tuned to the community feed and Twitter and stuff like that. We'll try to see if we can cook something up for you guys on Thursday. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's football on Thanksgiving is fun. Somebody was talking to me about playing football the other day, and I said, listen.
Who was talking? Hey, we'll talk. Send me that. I need to get back out there.
No, not that. No, somebody was asking me about, could I go play? I'm like, listen, I'm not going out and playing any.
Yeah, that's why I said text me. Let me know who's playing. I know you ain't going out there with your old ass. I'm trying to get out here and get these legs moving. Listen, your boy still got it.
I could go out there and get my
now you
Jason
talking
Witten
about
on.
I still
But I don't want to, man.
I know.
I can't be in a cast my wife's put in labor and I'm in a cast.
Are they talking tackle football?
No, it wasn't the actual game.
So you're going to be in a cast.
It was a hypothetical situation.
Come on, man. Come on. I know my dogs play on Sunday morning. As soon as the season is over, I'm out there. Your boy feeling good. Look at you. Your back. You was telling me you had random back pain the other day.
My back. I gotta look
might need a better chair,
best
man.
Best stretches to do on a daily basis.
That's some old man shit right there. You gonna go for walks and shit too?
No. I ride a bicycle.
You ain't riding no bike. You ain't even got no bike. You need a bike. I got an extra bike here
I got an exercise bike in my bedroom.
Oh man, you ain't getting on no exercise bike. You need a real bike. Hit the trenches, man. You got to win the trenches, man. Shout out to C Webb. All right, man. Seriously, though, any last words for these folks, or was that it?
Big shout out to everybody in chat. We appreciate all the love and all the support. Listen, I'm just like you and how you start off with the giant overreactions, man.
Yeah, like, this is going to be a short show, right? And then 3 hours later, I'm like,
whole
all
day
right.
of work in here in the studio. And
I'm like, my bad, Joe. I ain't mean to keep y'all here.
We ain't even get to the first giant overreaction yet.
Yo, people dip out before I even get to the overreactions because we talk for 2 hours before we do the overreactions.
Absolutely love it. Big shout outs. You guys in the chat, gals in the chat, you guys are rock stars. Shout out to all the Cowboys fans who came through to rub it in my face. I love that. I love that.
Now this I ain't down for. Now this I ain't down. A league, I might go out there and play tackle football a time.
With pads. With pads.
No. All right, y'all, man.
I think that's a pads league he's talking about.
Flows in color surround sound. Life without dreams is black and white. I don't know what the beard talking about. Well, you expect me at 41 to get into some pads, bro?
That's what he's talking
Hey,
about.
bro, you know how hard they hitting out there in pads, bro? Ain't no way in hell I would suit up in pads today. You know them goons, them dudes probably just got out of jail, spent 10 in the pen, missed out on a whole football career sitting at 35, want me to line up next to them, and you know they going to throw me out there. I'm a new guy. They're going to be like, listen, we want you to play the line, bro. Play the line right.
I'm going to need
No
the
way
old
in
school
hell.
pad setup, though, man. With the girdle and the hip pads
The
and the
button and
thigh
hip
pads.
pads.
Breakdown.
Them
You
joints
know
used to
what I'm
hurt. Them button and hip pads used to hurt, man. I used to try to not wear those as much as possible. I flip them the other way sometimes. But yeah, definitely not. Nah, no tackle football. Maybe one time though. You know, I know these Turkey Bowl, you know, they want to play tackle on Turkey Bowl. And last time I did that, shout out my homie Zach, bro. He was out there claiming skulls, bro. Nose bleeding. I ain't gonna say he was on drugs. I ain't gonna say he wasn't on drugs.
Man. The tailbone pad.
Oh yeah, the tailbone. Yeah, I forgot. Hey, I forgot about that joint right there. Had the button-in tailbone pad, the button-in hip pads. Man, all right, we getting off track here. Hey, shout out to the gang, man. We appreciate all y'all pulling up, man. This was definitely a good vibe. One of our longer recap shows, man. Shout out to the Beard for bringing all the nuggets to the table. It was a good conversation, and shout out to the family in the chat, man, for bringing just great content as well. Y'all are always dropping nuggets as well. I think, you know, this is a we're kind of let me think about the best way to say this without putting a pause in there. We're influencing y'all. We're influencing y'all to come to the table with some nuggets as well. So big shout out to y'all. Y'all know how we end. Big Dog Status got me crying right now. The tailbone pad. The tailbone pad is crazy. But y'all know how we end every podcast over here at Authentic and the Beard, man. Keep raising that bar. Keep living those dreams because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. And a life without dreams is black and white. Rest in peace to the podcast GOAT, Combat Jack. Congratulations to Monique on that W. Y'all know what it is, man. Enjoy the rest of y'all Tuesday evening. It's been a blessing being able to be up here and talk sports with y'all, man. We appreciate all of y'all. Y'all be good. Peace.
Spike don't care.